let's see what we've got in mind here, because I'm kind of curious actually what the draft's going to give us for DEBILS versus Volda. Oh, look at that. Coastal Cliffs beginning. We haven't had many Atoll games so far, right? Like, I'm trying to remember how many times it has actually come up so far.
Especially in team games, like in the last, like at least during the group stage, I don't think we've seen it at all.
No, I'm checking it now, and like in terms of bans, the interesting part is actually Atoll is the most banned map. Only first beyond Pigeon's Valley. So 14 bans so far for Atoll, 13 for Pigeon's Valley, and then you have 11 for Himeyama and Archipelago, respectively. Himeyama, I think, is a little bit surprising there. I thought that would be kind of one of the most anchored maps players would go to for 2v2.
I think it kind of depends, like, on your strategy that you might want to go for. Himeyama is a very open map. It can be very aggressive. So if you like find yourself in a draft situation where you might not want to play in an open style, if your gameplay style overall might not be as aggressive, you're probably not going to want to pick Himeyama. But here at the DEBILS team, I mean, they're definitely feeling at home when it comes to aggression. We got Jigglypuff, the I want to say he's a knight aficionado, so he really enjoys his cavalry. And seeing as Byzantines has already been picked here on Coastal Cliffs, I think we know which player is going to be playing as the Byzantines here in this one. My
favorite part is they're like, oh, let them have the Byzantines. We're fine with that. They actually chose to snipe out the English instead. So, you know, Chinese Jean up against Byzantine Malians, kind of a peculiar one, right? Because I usually feel like China isn't quick out into the map. And Jean has been looking best in the 2v2s when they have a teammate that is present early on.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a little bit defensive early on as well, especially since you get the Barbican. You can help your teammate out with that, especially on a map like Coastal Cliffs. Like, you're relatively close to your ally there. You're going to have to wait and see exactly how this one is going to play out, how the spawn is coming in, and how it's going to be looking for JD if she gets like something nice like a back gold.
Maybe we get the triangle of deer that we've sometimes been seeing on Coastal Cliffs, the perfect place to drop a Barbican. Jean would be helped out rather by that. But yeah, Malians, gonna be intriguing to see if we just get like mass Donzo Flood, right? And then you kind of get that Byzantine power spike timing where they can just add in a few Merc units. Might just be that we actually have two greedy boys, right? Like, considering a certain American on that team loves his Cataphract so much, he might not even be appearing on the map before age 3.
Yeah, could be. I mean, Jiggly also likes to make his cash X, right? So a small appearance here and there should definitely be coming. But I think it's time for us to jump into our game number 1 now. Game number 1 of today in our Decider match series. Team DEBILS versus Volda Esports. Let's jump into it on Coastal Cliffs.
The beginning of what could be quite a long day. In theory, these should be teams that are tightly competitive. Ramen and Dragavan of Volda Esports going up against BLB and Jigglypuff on Team DEBILS. Will we get to see the devilish Cataphracts making an appearance, or will they be shutted out before they even appear? I mean, there is the potential for Dragavan to try and dictate flow in this early game. Jean should, of course, have that advantage, courtesy of those French Knights.
Indeed, French Knights definitely a menace at the beginning. Looking at how we spawn in already, look at that. Ramen, he's going for a Dark Age push here with the spear already on its way now out onto the map. That's interesting, especially against the Malians. You kind of want to like attack them early on. But the gold mine's all the way in the back, so it's going to take a while in order to arrive there.
Yeah, it's also just kind of weird from, even if you were on the correct side here, even if the goal was forward of you, right? Like, how's your timing really looking here? Like, how much can you keep pushing this before the ally arrives to assist? I mean, if you feel like there's value in blocking both players' gold, I understand it. And I think that's maybe where Ramen is going here. Like, against an atypical Byzantine player, you probably think, oh, yeah, no, this isn't worth it. He's going to build longbows. But as we've been mentioning, Jigglypuff likes to build one type of mercenary only, and one type of Byzantine-specific unit only.
Yeah, cash shakes against Spearman, not the greatest matchup. But I gotta say, like, for Jigglypuff as well, his spawn is absolutely magnificent for what he wants to do. Double berries in the back, gold in the back. You couldn't really ask for a better spawn. Now, the question is he gonna still be able to react to early aggression coming out of Ramen? Because you can't just be like, oh yeah, I got stuff in the back, I don't need to react at all. You might still have to go for some reaction, but it looks like it's actually not the plan at all from Ramen to go onto Jigglypuff instead.
Oh, hello.
We also see Jean moving out.
So we have a Jean Outpost rush that is going to be protected by the Spearman. This is pretty crafty, actually, out of the Volda Esports boys. It gives you your aggressive timing into the French Knights, whereas usually when we've been seeing these Outpost rushes from Jean, they lead to a very prolonged Dark Age before you're really able to get that impact that the French are so well known for.
Small turn once again, and now Ram and Dragvan are looking towards pressure onto Jigglypuff, and we can already see Jean, she's going to go for that Outpost. Kind of an issue that I see here with Sean being all the way over in the enemy base at this point in time. Chances are she's probably not going to get a whole lot of experience in this game.
No, I mean, you could try to build a few structures around here, right? But it's still going to be a long way off. You have to keep in mind just how much time was spent walking across the map here. Yeah, usually what you see is School of Cavalry comes in with Jean +1 being built, and you're probably looking at, what, about 4.5 to 5 minutes maximum to get level 2. This Jean, probably still going to be level 1 at 6.5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, Jiggly, in theory, he does have the access to Akratoid defense, so could pull some villagers there, destroy the outpost, and there we go. He does indeed pull villagers in order to get rid of that outpost. Those villagers,
but don't worry.
They carry the spirit. Yeah, they can do it.
Yeah, don't worry. We ain't going to torch this down. We're just going to poke it to death. So Akratoid has been used. I mean, in theory, Ramen could... What? Wait, what?
He can't replace the outpost. He needs to wait for more wood to come in.
I mean, he should be able to get it quite quickly, though, right? Like, unless he's screwed up on the trees. Yeah, I think he's pretty much out on that one, so he might have enough, just about enough on the drop-offs. There you go. Yeah. The already fell tree, he can begin it, but this is awkward now. The time is kind of off. The spears should be able to aggress against this, but I'm a little bit surprised they're getting away with this, right? Ramen only built 4 spears.
This is so much idle time being caused here right now. I'm surprised Jigglypuff isn't making any units here in order to defend against this. And we can already see that, like, this idle time, or rather this distraction, is already hurting Jigglypuff. He's at 19 villagers, while Dragvan and Ramen, they're at 21. There must have been some idle time in there.
Yeah, and now this outpost, I mean, he just built it. It's not really going to achieve much. He needs to deny this one, so no spears to stab at this time. It's just going to be the torches out, but the spearman reaction comes in. I mean, this outpost surely doesn't get denied.
Villagers are getting pulled back. I mean, there are spearmen dying.
It's looking like he might be able to get some repair off here. Needs to be quick. No, not Garrison. No, oh, no.
He goes down. Okay, I mean, if the outpost went up, that would have been disastrous for Jigglypuff. He lost so much there, but the knight is already out there. Archer, with his last arrow, manages to pick off the spearman, but now Jigglypuff once again is getting pushed off of his berries here.
Kind of wild, actually, right? Like, you would have expected Dragavan to just repair once the outpost went up, and then Ramen hops in with the spears, right? Instead, you had Ramen still stabbing with the spearman, and Dragavan just, they made it on her own in her tower, right? A little Rapunzel in this game. As a result, kind of a wasted effort. Yes, as you said, does get the night timing there, but doesn't really achieve the full condition they were looking for. So instead, I wonder if we're going to see a switch across onto BLB now. Probably an easier target, considering he shouldn't really have any true defenses up yet.
Donzos are coming into queue right now, though, so should at least get some spearmen out now. God, unfortunately, does go down. Vision denial can be crucial here. And Ram behind this, I'm wondering what he's doing. He's got a ton of villagers over in woods. I'm guessing now this might be a transition either into archers or Jugunu. Doesn't have Song Dynasty yet, so needs to be Jugunu at this point in time.
Yeah, and his gold is kind of lacking behind for that Juke timing, so instead it's just going to have to be the archers. I mean, over time, you will scale of gold. I think the value out of this over Juke is it can get you a much more aggressive ram timing, right? Because you already have the archers early in position, and then all that taxation gold can be put to Tex instead of Juke. And Jean is at it again. Wait, dude, I don't think they scoured the northern corner. If we check the vision of Ram and Dragavan, I don't think they know about the double berry patch up there. Oh, they do. So
yeah, they do.
I guess this at least blocks the dig, but it feels like a bit of a weird positioning to back up for an outpost.
It is kind of weird. I mean, what they're getting here is they're getting a lot of line of sight between the two players, right? So they're going to see if one of them like sends units over to the other side. Jiggly already has a couple of olive groves out. Now the first batch of Kashyyyks is coming in. Is he going to be able to achieve anything with that, though? He does have his economy fully prepped for a castle transition here. The issue is he needs to stay alive for that. And BLB is now separated from him with that outpost.
But Cataphracts can beat all Krakeny. They don't need allies. At least that's what I've been told by Twitch chat and Reddit for the last 4 weeks.
I mean, Knights, the issue is, right, like, Knights from Jean, they can always just regenerate. So if you got good micro, you can always, like, pull the weak Knights back. Especially when there are only a few of the Cataphracts out, you're going to have a relatively easy time at being able to pull them back.
Yeah.
Interesting that Dragoman went for Archer Zone here against a Malian player that can just make javelins.
Yeah, well, he saw the Archer opening. It's still weird, though. I mean, I guess you could argue the melee Jean is going to suck against Cataphracts, whereas the Archer Jean can at least try to get the snipes before the gulps really add up, but it's still going to be difficult. And I mean, that heal you talked about is great, but not when they're already dead, right? As many of us learned with our first pet at the vets, the doctor can't heal the dead. So Dragoman needs to be very careful, because just losing 1 or 2 of these knights will lose him his memento timing, and that will also give an opening for the Cataphracts to get involved.
Raman at this point in time already has a great number of archers out on the field. Archers don't do that great against the javelin throws though, but the big mass of javelin throws isn't quite there yet.
No, he's just trying to whip down the Donzos now for an entry point. I mean, you can see that paranoid that Jigglypuff even brought the Keshik over here. Meanwhile, System, the first hill, is now coming up. Jigglypuff has built the walls, so it won't be backstabbed either. The question mark now is, how much can the Cataphracts get done?
Just at this point in time, we do see a potential move out from both Raman and Dragoman over to Jigglypuff. They're kind of posturing into his direction. We now see Dragoman using his knights. Might be that he's looking for this potential H up now. Siege engineering, and he already has some wood for it as well.
Yeah. It's a smart call, right? Like, I don't think you can wait, go Steeled Arrow. You just don't really care that much about Cataphracts anyway for Steeled Arrow. This is smart, though. Like, if they can break in, deny the food equity, then no Cataphracts, no problems.
Definitely need to get in there first, though. Food could be an issue for Jigglypuff if the berries at the top side get denied for him.
He hasn't even touched him yet. That's kind of the tricky thing with the Grand Winery in that situation, right? Like, the safer food gets taken first. It has to, because you just get so much more value out of it. It just means you're taking away the safety band you have with these greedy builds.
Units are coming in.
Whoa.
Age up is getting completed, but a lot of villagers go down in the blink of an eye. Oh, Jiggly needs to pull the villagers back.
Might be able to find more here. I mean, this is a kind of awkward shuffle away, right? Like, Jigglypuff, look at it. He's already got a fully garrisoned TC, so more losses. And Cataphracts OP, sure, but very expensive as well. This is usually the downside of this build that players have been discovering recently, is if the timing is right on the dive, this castle player gets practically no value.
At the same time, though, Cataphract is now out. Villagers pop out in order to try and repair. No damage found on them.
Although the tower is still on fire.
Getting value in.
So 3 more to be killed. Malians are now arriving, so it looks like they should be able to kind of shove this away. Probably the best thing that can occur here is Dragoman just tries to get the knights out, and Ram is likely to lose the archers.
Yeah, archers should be going down here for sure. Cataphract also, with the gulp, can always just heal back up, and there are still a good amount of cavalry units overall right now for Jigglypuff, so does have a timing now, a timing opportunity here to potentially do some damage. He is greatly behind in the villager count, though. Other players right now, 42, 40 villagers. Jigglypuff, 28. Not looking too hot on the economy front.
Especially when you consider those Cataphracts are 330 resources each. They drain you to the bone, they truly do. So it's going to slow down his timing and should allow their opponents a little bit of time to catch up if they choose the age up. Instead, they're choosing the ongoing aggression here. More and more knights queued up, and a lot more spears as well to come from Raman. Gulps are going to sustain this, and it looks like it's going to have to be a peel back. Dragoman has to give over more territory, but that means Raman is throwing more archers to the wolves.
Gulp, I mean, it is strong, but it actually doesn't heal that much anymore, so Cataphracts, if you don't pull them back, you might still lose them potentially here.
I think that's what Dragoman's going for. He's like, okay, you can gulp once and then I can recommit. He just needs to kind of remember which ones actually gulp. That's the real challenge.
Oof. And should take one of the Cataphracts down, but Army's still getting chased back. And a lot of the knights right now also weak for Dragoman, so he can't really take any great engagements. Now Spearman Mass getting re-queued by Raman. It's gonna be enough in time.
Where are all the spears? I mean, Raman, he's had quite a few queued up. Is this all been out of one Rax? I think he may have just added in a second, but I felt like when we saw him start to queue up spears, the numbers looked a little bit underwhelming. So yeah, there we go. And I think he might have been supervising it temporarily. Third Rax coming in, so we should start to see an ample number coming. But it has come at a cost for Dragavan, right? It's kind of blunted his scaling on the Knights. He's still struggling to go beyond 10. Jigglypuff, meanwhile, is about to go up to 5 Cataphracts.
Yeah, 5 Cataphracts, that's a pretty decent number. Behind that, also still able to scale into Keshix here time and time again. System First Hill also providing an additional 4% economy to Jigglypuff. So overall, 18% bonus gather speed for him at the moment. Still 13 villagers behind, it definitely is a lot. And Ramen behind this looks to potentially want to go up to the next age.
Yeah, and the other tricky part in conjunction with this is like the reason why they're working so hard to contain it is one Cataphract can be a lot more havoc than one Knight getting into your economy, right? You're in a very open format here. You saw by Dragavan's layout, double gold forward. He's got gatherers on the deer between the two bases. You know, the only player on that team that's been walling is Ramen. So while Dragavan wants to keep them pinned in, now with his teammate teching up, there's a very big risk that Dragavan's economy count could look as small as Jigglypuff's.
Probably could be villagers are forward on the gold, so that is definitely a target that BLB and Jiggly could hit.
Marching over now. And no doubt Dragavan can't hold this area, right? Not with all the Donzos following this up, so he's going to have to probably shuffle back off the gold until reinforcements arrive. Ramen is moving across right now. Looks like we've got no attempts to attack his economy. I think this is very tunnel visioned actually out of the DEBILS boys, just going after one target when you've got these very powerful raiding units now.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it. Not looking for a lot of like potential picks as well. They don't have a scout with their military, so their vision is also a little bit closed off at the moment. John, she's still the ranged version here.
Yeah, Dragavan
javelins do so much damage here.
Wait, he's not even moving the villages, and BLB just noticed. Also, he has to run past this army now. Cataphracts coming in, the line formation for the Donzos, the villagers gonna struggle to get out of it. The trample blocks them off, and only a handful get away from that. About half going down. So Dragavan starting to feel the pain, and almost at the same eco count now as Jigglypuff.
Bros firing onto the archers. Veterancy not in yet for them.
Cannons are getting open.
Doesn't have a lot of gold. He's only just now moved out to gold again after the age up.
This is double value, by the way. Yeah, we didn't quite see the trample. There was an opportunity there, but Jigglypuff basically able to force a fight on top of the economy as well as the archers. Dragavan taking even more villager losses.
JD once again returning. And there's a lot more military coming over from BLB behind this. John, you gotta be so careful with her. Once again, reduced to half health.
So I'll heal it off, boys. So there's half your health bar gone on a night you don't have to worry about. Yeah, this... I don't know. I think I get why he didn't choose melee form, right? I really do. Against what you know is going to be Cataphracts, it would have just felt weird. You would have felt countered still. But this doesn't feel much better. And I think my bigger worry is once you get level 3, it kind of feels worse, right? Because javelins can still sufficiently counter you.
Still a large army of Donzos and javelin throwers behind us. I wonder where all of them are. Like, this army doesn't look that big, considering just how many units we know BLB actually has out on the field.
They are Congo lining quite a bit as well, yeah. I mean, you can see the stream of yellow coming, right? Like, green obviously a little bit more lacking there, but will over time scale up with those relics coming home. Clash comes in, trample to the forward side after the brace came through. Good maneuver there. Able to pinch a few here, and Jean goes down, so no level 3 coming through there. Keshiks are leaking into the archer formation at the back of this. Dragavan's Knights don't seem able to frontline this anymore. There's still a handful of Cataphracts in there, plenty of Donzos to wreak havoc, and all of a sudden, instead of these archers countering the Donzos, the A-clicks are just going to hit into the heavy cav.
10 Knights against 10 Cataphracts. Knights only in feudal age and still losing more and more of them. Archer count thoroughly decimated at this point in time due to the javelin throws.
It's about to get worse.
The Devils team able to push in.
Now that they've got this rain, they're probably going to be checking the west side soon as well. It gets much worse because Grand Fulani is indeed on the way. So BRB, he can lead into more javelins if he chooses. He can even choose to go into sofas to keep the pressure up. Jean, wait, what?
Down in the TC.
Did we just... It looked like we coronated a town center bell there for a second. I can't believe that works still. Oh my god. He brought it back, right? So no level 3 coming through. Yeah, it's on cooldown for a long, long time here. They're lucky this hasn't been discovered, by the way. Like, the moment this gets seen, its curtains closed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grim reminder, once again, why you should never go for range on against any civilization that has even remote access to javelin throwers.
Yeah. It's, I mean, or any civ that has, like, very beneficial horsemen, right? Like Ottoman's Delhi, for example, the better versions. Because once again, you will get slapped down and out pretty damn fast. And there it is. It's finally arrived. Yeah, Jigglypuff did walk over here early to pick up the relic, so he may have taken a glance from there, but now he's going to take a massacre. Outpost trying to be rushed up. It's going to be found on the gold as well. At this point, it feels like you're just processing the inevitable loss.
Yeah. I mean, right now, Ketchik's able to just wreak havoc everyone. The gold comes
they still
in
have
as well.
goals.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, all these peasants and their blunt butter knives. I'm just gonna drink from my flask quickly. First, he worked massacring all these innocent people.
You go stiff when you're drunk, so that way you take less damage.
Glad that's where you go with that. Cataphracts are showing up, and oh no. No.
Oh my god, it's a massacre.
That has to be it.
Time, yeah, Jiggly has more villagers now than Dragavan and Ramen. After an insane first hit on his economy, being able to recover that far. And there we go. GG gets called. Game number 1 going over to Team DEBILS here.
They could have banned the Byzantines. They chose not to. They thought they had the solution to Jigglypuff, and now everything that they had concocted in their brain must be put into question here as the DEBILS take the lead.
Looking at that villager graph stat, I mean, that is truly vile at the beginning there. Jigglypuff just losing 13 villagers within a couple of moments. And in the end, though, the gulp came through. The mass from BLB, the Malian javelins, able to pull through. And game number 1 going over to DEBILS.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways they'll be shaking their fists at the spawn. We said it was a good one, but like, you know, there were the other issues. Like, this was a pristine example. Love that we caught this. I mean, the outpost goes up, right? And watch what happens when it completes. The spearmen are doing a good job of keeping away. Now, when it completes, your goal here is Jean needs to immediately repair, and the spears need to grab see inside the outpost, right? Now,
yeah,
you could forgive it if Rama was looking elsewhere, but you just saw he was microing the spearmen actively. It just completely tunnel visioned on them, and that kind of put things into a slippery slope, right? It meant all of a sudden Jigglypuff was still going to get a competitive timing. They came too late to block this, and they spent so much effort trying to dive this base. You know, we didn't give enough credit to BRB for not only sending reinforcements, but gradually pumping into those ranches that would lead to the inevitable double castle.
And at this point in time, we see the villager losses that manifest there for Jigglypuff, but I can't help but feel like if they only started going onto Jigglypuff as he aged up like 10 seconds earlier, this would have been an entirely different game.
Yeah, you know, that's another thing about that outpost, right? Because that outpost would have been up and it would have remained up because Jigglypuff couldn't have afforded to get rid of it. So they would have known exactly when he was making that play. They would have been able to do something as simple as check the gold vein and go, ah, I see you've gathered enough here. So, you know, it completely changes the dynamic of the game if that outpost does indeed go up. But instead, the Katas continue to look opu. I got some beef with healing. I mean, I don't know if you've been feeling this. I remember I was saying about the Dervish a while ago. I think healing in the first 15 minutes of games feels borderline OP.
It does. It really, really does. Like, even with the Delhi at the moment, it feels like with the Dome of Faith at the moment, they get so many scholars out at any one point in time. They're just going to pull all of them if there's like a decisive fight happening. And suddenly you have like 10 additional scholars healing your military. The Dervish as well, like... Two dervishes that come out for the Ayubids, and suddenly, like, you can have like 3-4 longbows out. They're not going to kill anything. You're just getting out healed.
Yeah, it's absurd. You have to scale up to like 7 or 8 longbows, or maybe close to 10 archers to start threatening them. Because we've seen games where one Desert Raider has ruined an opponent, right? Because of the double dervish shield. It's a very obnoxious build at the moment. You know, and Delhi has always been there. I mean, it's almost like we erased it from our mind. You remember the early herbal medicine days of Delhi, right? When they first ran rampant at the highest levels of play. It was all about the healing.
Yeah, it can definitely like end up in those situations where you feel like your units just don't really do any damage, especially when you're only flooding melee units, and something like men-at-arms, for example, which don't have as high of an attack stat as a knight, and you're just getting out-healed by scholars.
Yeah, it's like an interesting thought experiment with RTSs when you discuss health as a resource, right? Because when we say resources, we're used to food, wood, gold, stone. We haven't used to population. But the idea of health makes a lot of sense the more you think about it. And if you have a way of, for free, replicating health, like, or rather replacing health, it's an overwhelming advantage. Like, if you think about most traditional RTSs that offer that type of healing, think of like a Warcraft. There's a cost to healing, right? Mana. We don't have any mana in this game. It's just always happening. You could argue maybe the system at least has a limitation, right? It has to replenish, so it's mana there is time. But definitely a lot of these heals in the early days, in the early phase of the game, just feel like they can more or less decide it. Like, I think if people kind of honed in around that with a decent amount of micro, they can find their way all the way to Kong. But instead, we are going to finally find our way to Atoll. It is happening. I believe we're about ready actually to hop in-game straight away. That's right. We just kept the action up on your screen. Snipe on the Japanese DEBILS, no surprise there, especially considering that Volda does have Dragavan on that team. Means we're going to have English Jean up against HRE Roos.
Yeah, and in a map like Atoll, it's very important to take water, so I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of water fights going on here. John recently got a slight buff with the dock, getting bonus population now.
Yep.
Let's see how this one's going to go. Game number 2 now, Volda Esports against DEBILS. Let's jump into Atoll.
A bloody fun map to have a little bit of a splash in the pond with as well. Welcome back to Toilet Seat Gaming, one and all. Game number 2 of this best of 5 between DEBILS and Voda. DEBILS taking to the English and Jean. Meanwhile, Voda manning the HRE and Rouge.
Already can see BLB going up with that early dock. Same thing happening for Ramen on the other side. No early dock from Dragavan, as far as I can tell. Instead, we're getting a double hunting cabin, and those look like good hunting cabin spots here, so should be able to propel himself into a fast feudal age.
Yeah, 37 trees on this one, probably like 40 on the other. Oh, actually, wait, he could go further north, right? If he goes beyond his teammate's base, that might be worth going up there and just leaving the villager on the double deer stack. Yeah.
That's where you want to put your hydrate house. That's going to be a very, very good spot.
Move everyone over there
already. Yeah. A lot of deer already waiting for you.
It's interesting we have this discussion actually about like healing and how OP it can feel in the early phase of the game, like can make a drastic difference. Now we have water where healing can happen, but we actually have land healing as well, double healing in fact. You've got the English with likely Abbey of Kings, and then of course Jean has her own divine restoration to give to everyone in the fight. So actually a pretty cool idea. It's almost like DEBILS are leading their strategies around that core concept, like we saw with game number 1.
Yeah, now we thought a little bit about a high trade house going there in that spot. What about an Archon Chapel, though?
Ooh. This is how teams disband, Crackety. It's like, you know when you have a Japanese player and an HRE player and they argue over the relics? This is the equivocal of that. Who gets that spot?
Yeah, I mean, as an Archon, like, you can put it next to the woodline and just lure all the deer in, and then you still have enough room for the high trade house. The issue is the high trade house is potentially going to block farming area, so the HRE isn't going to be too happy about that, but they should still be getting in a lot of value there. Now, first age up is going to be coming in. Should be coming in for Jigglypuff. There it is, School of Cavalry coming in. Dragavan on the other hand side, also about to age up. Guessing it should be the Golden Gate, but judging by how many villagers are moving forward, more likely going to be a Kremlin.
That's quite surprising, although look at the value in the area. It's double boar. I mean, it's been scouted, but like, what are you going to do? Yeah, that would do it. Oops. Kind sir, do you mind? We're trying to set up a love shack over here.
Oh no, first village down. And it's cancelled.
But I don't think it needed to be cancelled, right? The boar de-aggroed when he moved to the northern side. He would have been fine there if he just tested it first. Oh no.
Situation. That's going to be a lot of delay here. If they can just get Dragavan to cancel one more time, the Knights would be coming in time from the School of Cavalry.
I think it's too far now, right? The boar de-aggroes at this point, or it should. Yeah. And this is where, like, Dragavan, when he watches this replay back, he'll assess and go, yeah, I could have actually just moved north side. Would have been a little bit of a gamble with the other ball, potentially, but in theory, you should have been safe here. Scout harassment coming in, but we'll be able to secure the area. So Kremlin is going up, but this is ugly, the timing. He has to pull additional villagers due to the insecurity of it.
Ark and Chapel, I mean, it boosts up the gold and it still boosts up a wood line. I would have really liked the deer spot there, but guess he didn't think that it would be worthwhile. He can also always just send an additional prelate out there in order to get the deer in and all.
It only really
inspired.
makes sense if it's a fast castle build, right? Like, that's the only reason you want to go for this gold. So, might be revealing a little bit much about the strategy there once it gets scouted. And that does give an opening because English plus Jean, that's a very powerful feudal comp.
Oh, Scout is getting sniped by the TC. Abbey of Kings also going up. The issue with that boar play over there next to the Kremlin is that nowadays, like, the Kremlin's range has been nerfed, so you should be able to attack onto the boar, or rather deny the boar, with an outpost against the Kremlin.
Or you just bring in a few lombos, right? Either or, both beneficial options here. Let's see which way he wants to go. I wonder if BLB is going to try to be greedy and... Oh, no.
Position of the boar, one outpost could completely deny this play.
Well, we do have level 2. No, we don't. If Jigglypuff sees this, she might get sick of being a forager and go, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a builder. There is still an opportunity here, but for now, they're not looking at it. Jigglypuff instead hunting deeper into the economy.
A villager, once it gets hit once by the boar, it is going to be in range to get one-shot by Feudal Age on with the Divine Arrow.
And that's what we're expecting to see here, right? Like, realistically, with this Arc placement, H3 is going to go H3, so they're going to be rushing knights. Dragonman has access to knights, so you'd rather have the ability to snipe down the low HP ones rather than have this vulnerable melee target.
No castle age play, though, from Ramen.
Oh,
He's going to go on the water aggression. And it makes sense. On this map, you kind of do want to go for the water aggression just because you're able to, like, loop around the base.
We'll get a little bit of pressure in. BLB out with the bow. But you have to be very careful here, right? Like, BLB is going to have an edge healing. But on top of that, the other thing is Admiralty. So if you get stuck in a long feudal water exchange, English can just gradually get a lead in conjunction with the fact they have that 10% discount on boats.
Ships also don't have that much HP anymore, so if you go too close to the shoreline, there might be a chance of Jean just using a Divine Arrow to snipe out a ship.
And Ramen just learned why people build the Ark and Chapel on the home tree line.
Yeah,
there is no gathering.
One. Getting completely denied there on the wood line. Might also lose a villager on gold. Nope, do get pulled. Nice little picture. Oh, demo ship is going to have to do a little bit of dancing here if it wants to stay alive.
Range shot is on the way, by the way, coming on land, so that's going to be more pressure on the Dragonman's base. Nice snipe there, though. Counter demo play. Although at base, the response, he just about gets the shot out to make it an even one.
Ah, could have pulled one of the fishing ships there in order to keep it alive. Was a close one, but in the end, both hulks are going to go down. More in queue, though, and water is kind of even still at the moment.
Dragoman just trying to scribble over Rama's drawing there, the wall on wall from the two players, just to kind of realize, oh, actually, yeah, your walls weren't good enough to stop these knights. He's trying to make it an even tighter formation here.
Ooh, one more villager getting sniped there by a knight.
Yeah, and it looks like Jigglypuff is intentionally trying to hide behind the trees with Jean to encourage a villager to come out to repair. So, looks like there's going to be a burn for attempt on the east side now. The king is also here. All you really need to do if you're Jigglypuff is just keep poking near this wall, and he should never be able to touch.
Yeah, and the king now also is going to be able to heal up the knights.
Why waste money on chivalry?
Exactly.
Just get an English teammate.
Get chivalry for free.
Oh, he's clicking on the wrong thing here, though. Didn't get that opening to finish. Usually you want to hold the demo ship instead of detonating it so that you can get them low enough. We'll at least take out the archer ship, though.
Taking down the archer ship opens up the chance for another demo ship hit.
Wow, look at that. The Arkan Chapel could have went there. The High Trade House could have went there. Doesn't this just make you sick, Crackety? They done that thing where, like, you know, you go, oh, you can't date my ex, you know, I still feel for her. It's like, but I love her. It's like, okay, well, neither of us will date her. So neither of them took the best landmark placement there.
It is unfortunate for both of them. And once again, demo ship does connect. Still an even-ish fight on water behind us now. Dragovan, as you mentioned, is aging up with the High Trade House. Question is what he's going to go for. Probably cat archers?
Yeah, it has to be, right? Horse archers is like the most logical thing here. I just don't know if you really feel that great about it. I mean, DLB can't really contest you with mass lombos, right? He's distracted on the water side. But this quickly feels like it's going to turn into a 2v1. And horse archers can be threatening, but I'm not sure they're going to have the numbers here.
Ooh, Demo gets a nice connection in.
Turn fire, though.
Sides, though.
Looks like the king did go down, so some ambitious diving coming out. Yeah, maybe some mistakes made over here as well, just trying to harass. I mean, this is where you maybe would expect Jean to be. Even just, I wonder if Jigglypuff could have maybe assisted on the water, and that would have given BLB a little bit of resource to get lombos, which would have shut down the entire Kremlin play.
To be fair, BLB, his resource split at the moment does enable him to go for a relatively easy longbow transition. Dragoman only just now reaching age up. And he doesn't have a lot of resources in the bank in order to really spam out these units now. Instead of cav archers, we're actually seeing crossbows coming in. And now it's just an easy counter with a longbowman.
Yeah, I mean, with the horse archers, I could have at least seen the potential for him to try to raid to the other side. This is just reactionary, right? Crossbows because you feel what's coming. What you should be trying to do is get ahead here. I mean, you can go crossbows on a delay, but horse archers, even 5 to 8 of them to begin with, could do huge damage here. And we are seeing that land transition. BLB now adding in the archer range and the racks.
Not too sure about the racks, but I guess you kind of want to have like a complete army composition here. Militia, not really looking too healthy anymore, so knights in theory could just charge onto them.
It's kind of smart to add in the racks though, right? Like you've got French knights being built and you've got the lombos. You've already got 2 of the 3 best options at this stage, and now you just have that spear as a padding just in case. So yeah, it is a little bit weird to a certain degree, but it will at least give them bulk for a push timing, and I guess they're maybe a little bit paranoid that Dragoman might try to open with knights here.
On a
Steady opens with greed.
in. Crossbow mass is starting to build up, and Raman's also adding in his own spearmen now. But yeah, just pure mass longbows at this point in time should be able to deal with pretty much anything that Raman and Dragoman could throw at Jiggly and BLB. Wall's coming in as well. Oh, he's walling out the relic though, unfortunately.
Did Jiggly go for pro scouts? He must have, right?
Did he? He did. Just now, yeah.
That's a lot. So I don't mind pro scouts, but what I don't like, and it's something I noticed with Scarguard in the 1v1 weeklies, right, is like even the best players in the game completely neglect scouting when they do this, right? So like what you're seeing is a bit of a mistake from Jigglypuff around this Kremlin. Like he keeps trying to dive in, but through stealth forest with no vision. He's just punting blindly, and it's giving more time for Dragoman to react, because if you at least saw the villagers or the crossbows, you better charge them and get in a bit quicker.
Yeah. That's the point in time where you need to just make one additional scout, which, to be fair, Jigglypuff does have. One of these pro scouts is just not pro scouting at the moment. He's not getting the deer in. Instead, he is providing vision.
Yeah. But the problem was he was focusing around their base. He didn't have one with a group of knights, which just kind of feels like a cardinal sin, right? You always want to have vision for those knights. Looks like we have got a shuffle across the relics and a sneak back now from Dragoman. Lombos did just get revealed. Dragoman, I mean, this is bold. The way he's kind of posturing, Jigglypuff could just swarm him right now.
Oh, yeah, just like that.
Dragoman, he hasn't even moved the relic away. I am flabbergasted right now as to what he thinks he's doing that far out.
Yeah, definitely not where he wants to be, not where he wants to get found out, and is going to pay with a lot of his longbow mass for it. So 6 crossbows are going to go down there, courtesy of the longbows. And now they're in a precarious situation because they can't ever really go to the edge of the map because of the just risk of the ships coming in there. Yeah. At the same time, Jigglypuff, he could drop a dock in the middle or even on the outer corner and just go for some land trade as well. Not land trade, water trade.
Water trade, yeah. Definitely an option there. I think that would slow him down a little bit much when they actually want to try to focus on denying these relics for the time being. Raman, you know, the funny part is he hit the Archon location, but he's actually basically using it now. Crossbows do at least have an assist at this time. Spears, but here's longbows. Not really the place you want to be, right? BLB, a lot more longbows also getting queued up. The funny part is BLB on his lonesome at this rate could counter both Dragoman and Raman's armies.
To be fair, though, the crossbow army is getting kind of big. I'm not sure how many archer ranges BLB has, but it doesn't feel like it's enough right now to keep up with the production demand.
Oh, wow.
2 archer ranges. Yeah, that's not enough.
Look at the back queue. It's a little bit vulgar, right? Having 3+ in each. You want to try to keep that as close to 1 as possible, just to float balanced. And instead, it looks like BLB is contemplating Castle Age, while Jigglypuff is already on his way towards that Age 3.
Yeah. Royal Instant as well already has all the gold that he really needs in order to be able to click that Royal Bloodlines upgrade. But the gold is starting to thin out a little bit, so might need to go out to the edge there, which, to be fair, is close to water, so definitely defendable with the ships. But it's gonna have to move out there soon.
I mean, we've got quite a few relics coming home. So far, it's like, what? I think he's taken 4 back to base, so a lot of extra economy for Dragavan. Raiders coming in, though. The Knights looking for some freebies.
That's before the upgrades, though, so it doesn't feel as good losing these Knights now, thinking about that they could all potentially be Royal Bloodlines veteran Royal Knights.
Good guy Ramen leaves enough room in the TC for Dragavan to find his way to safety, even though he's basically unguarded at home. However, there is a cut-off coming in now to get some revenge here. The veterancy did just kick in for these Knights, just in time for them to die. And the walls, no, you can't go back that way. A Q attempt to get out here, but Dragavan has him.
Yeah, up to 30 crossbows now. Definitely a big army here. BLB behind this, also looking for an age up sometime soon now. Veterancy on the longbows is going to be very, very nice for them. Ramen, currently. I mean, there's always the potential for... Wait a second, does he have 13 spearmen in queue? How many barracks does he have?
Oh, I'm going to guess 2. For Ramen. I'm pretty sure it's 2.
1, 2, 2. Yeah, okay, that hurts
2.
a little bit.
Oh, 16 spearmen in queue.
I feel
That's
like
a lot
if
of
you
dead
just
resources.
ages up, like,
Right?
Dragavan already secured so many relics, right? You go up with the Regnitz Cathedral, suddenly you're doubling the gold income from those relics.
Yeah, but what if Dragavan was
no.
like, you can't have the relics? Oh, and more villagers going down. King's Path coming up, so scaling's going to be there for BLB. I mean, Jigglypuff, like, what's that economy doing right now? He's got so much surplus. If he had a gap on the gold gathering, he's fixing it now. So, thank God, I was about to say, there's no point going Castle Royals to only 2 minutes later to go Imperial. He will still play the Age here. Really needs to bolster that Knight count, though, and maybe look to wrap north side, right? Like, right now, he just keeps brute forcing where Dragavan's got all the crossbows. Speaking of which, crossbows, looking to fight.
This engagement is coming in a little bit too early. With this many crossbows, they're still able to one-shot these Knights with the Royal Bloodlines. And the veterancy upgrades aren't in yet. Yeah, they got to be really careful about when they want to take this fight. I'm also a little bit curious why Jigglypuff went for the gold on the bottom side instead of the one where BLB is up at the top right side.
Yeah, because BLB shouldn't need much gold, right? He should be just mass longbowing here. So tech up comes through. That's going to allow him to pressure more. You do at least now have the attack speed for the longbow defenders, but the numbers, however, definitely not favoring them here. Another worrisome part is, you know, Range Zone still has, what, 2 minutes getting pummeled here before a level up should realistically be happening.
Jigglypuff is queuing up horsemen. I would have really preferred to see some Jean's riders here against this many crossbows.
Oh, hold on. He actually did get enough XP. He's almost there. That was on the edge of death, though. He does back up. So we're getting level 3 Jean.
Get the age up in, and then you can the level up, and then you can spam those Jean raiders. There we go. Level up comes in.
Choices need to be made here. Is it going to be the right one? There we go. So Jean's riders to the field. Has all that range down. That gets the bonus damage up against the crossbows as well. Starts to brute force into the spearman mass, but that gives the space here for the longbows to dive in. And we'll be able to chase this away.
Sent over to Ramen, but Ramen doesn't have the food in order to age up. Not even close. He's on 35 villagers. Barely any villagers on food right now.
Yeah, and Meta Arm is getting added in, weirdly enough. I get the ambition here, but we aren't at that point. I think he might have even lost additional villagers when trying to go around the sides here. I mean, look at the count. 35 villagers now for Ramen.
Situation where Jigglypuff, with like pretty much neutral villagers, is at 57. Both Dragavan and Ramen lost a ton of villagers this game.
It gets worse than that, right? Like, sure, you've got these relics coming in, but it's not like you're the HRE player. On top of that, you've now got BLB on 2TC scaling. There's also the fishing, which he does already have. And then you've got Jigglypuff with all the pro scouts to guarantee he won't need a farm transition before you do.
Exactly. Jigglypuff still not making any more Jean's riders here. I think that's like the perfect response to everything that Ram and Dragavan have at the moment. Just mass Jean's riders. You don't take any damage, like barely any damage from these crossbows here.
Weirdly enough, despite seeing them, Dragavan's like, let me just build more of these crossbows, because let's be totally real, Jigglypuff loves his heavy cavalry a little bit too much. There's no way he'd give them up to build some riders.
Definitely feels like it at the moment. It's kind of ridiculous that you could even boost these Jean's riders up to 270 health in Castle Age with the equipment upgrade from the blacksmith.
Yep. And of course, having Jean in range form, level 3 now, she doesn't die quickly, which means you're going to also have the +1/+1 on the armor. So very hard to penetrate, very hard to kill. But no, instead it is just knights. Jigglypuff likes his shiny things.
Starting to prod a little bit once again.
Wait. What? Why have we placed them here? I mean, like, weirdly enough, Jigglypuff, if he had all the knights over there, he could probably torch down the monasteries. Instead, he goes greedily delving deeper into enemy territory. Meanwhile, second wave does come in, though.
Value.
Yeah, and the crossbows are completely out of position. The longbows are already pushing in as well. They'll be looking for additional eco kills and cutting reinforcements here. So Jean does go down, loses half the knights on the offensive, but still has plenty more booming behind this. And look at the eco lead. The difference between these two teams now is 50.
Yeah, it's starting to increase more and more, the difference between them. And now the crossbows are trying to come back, but are they even really going to be able to take this fight? Like, they're going to lose a lot of their own units. Grant, there is no attack speed aura, but still, the longbows attack a good bit faster here. Looks like the mass, though, 48 crossbows against just, are these, like 15 longbows at the front, in the front? Like, I think most of the other longbows are just in the back there.
I mean, they're still one-hit killing, right? And it's like the issue you have here, line formation gets them back away, and even if you're 1-for-1ing there, it's a good trade for BLB. Longbows costing 90, crossbows costing 120. And while that's all happening, the knights were running rampant into Raman's economy as well. And there it is, there's the biggest fear.
They have 50% of the villagers.
It's gonna get worse. They don't even have the relic buffer anymore. The keep drop now on the way from Jigglypuff.
All the relics sitting there on the ground. Keep, that's still an ambitious keep.
Is it
That's
seen?
getting spotted out. Yeah, it's seen. It's getting cancelled.
Have to back up here. It's crossbows. At least protect that area for now, but he needs to get some monks out before this becomes a Monka S. That is 6 relics sitting in one location. If they get any sort of static defense up, you'll never see them again.
I'm on 1500 wood behind this. Dragavan also floating 800 wood. Not sure how the farming situation is looking right now for Raman around that Archon.
It's been worse. It could be better. It's kind of all I got for you.
It's a little bit of a Picasso painting going on.
We just, we really need to read between the lines and interpret his feelings and emotions in the moment, that Archon, to truly distill what Raman is doing with it. But when we get through those complexities, Crackety, maybe we've delved into the most complicated strategy ever. Dragavan has lost 6 relics, but now Raman could go and collect all 6 of them.
He is indeed in Castle Age. Which landmark did he go for?
It was the Regnants, I believe. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, good.
However,
So
he's not producing
he
more
is trying to
prelates.
get one.
He's like, for glory.
Almost.
Soon. Okay, just 20 more prelates, we get one of these home. Another wall going up. Dragavan. He actually baits him with it as well. Crossbows are going to be able to mop up here, so a lot of knights going down, but this is becoming less about the heavy cavalry of Jigglypuff and more about the longbows of BLB, a number which is about to crack 50.
Yeah, now with the ground gained here at the front without the Kremlin, BLB is going to be able to play some outposts here at the front, get an attack speed attack speed aura in. And behind all of this, like, there's so many villager losses, so many villagers still lying here on the ground. 161 to 72 economy.
Remember when it was 50%? This must be like people looking at Intel stock recently. Actually, no, that's not true. That took a tiny hike for the moment. Maybe that's what we call getting a few relics home, if that can happen before the descent into despair further. But I don't think we're going to get to that recovery arc for them. Dive comes in, villagers getting idled out there. The second TC is not really going to be working for them. The Lombos guarantee villager kills on top of that. It is now 163 villagers to 67.
Yeah, I mean, there just is no comeback at this end. Dragon realizes GG gets called, and now we're gonna have the Devils team on match point.
Oy, oy, oy. I mean, we have Devils, definitely the ones who have a lot more experience in the team realm, but when you look at the players and their 1v1 performances for Volda, you'd be expecting a tighter series, but so far, time and time again, they find themselves getting shut out of opportunities, and now they cannot afford any more mistakes.
Yeah, definitely, it's all or nothing now. They need a clean 3 games now in order to get back into the series. Gonna have to see which map is gonna be the next one. I'm not sure if they had like a big plan here at the beginning, but I think even if they did, it all kind of started falling apart with the cancellation of the Kremlin and that boar pull onto it.
Yeah, catastrophic from there, right? Like we mentioned, it wasn't even necessary to have to cancel, right? I think he could have weaved away from that fine. The ball was just out of range, but he panicked a little bit in the moment, and I think the follow-up play was really good. Meanwhile, we highlight Dragonman's landmark placement, but we can't forget to shame Ramon's, right? He put that Arkin out of TC range against a Night Sif and paid the ultimate price there. The Wolves also looking indecisive, and this is what I was talking about. Watch what happens with the ball here, right? So he could have walked around to the north side where the sheep are right now. Look at that. He would have been safe at that distance.
Such a big delay then on the Kremlin, delaying that by like an additional minute.
I mean, you could argue maybe the second ball could have reached if you left it there, but I feel like that one could have been kited as well. And then, yeah, like the follow-up play, there it is, the Knight on the Arkin, right? Completely shuttering the value of the HRE. Don't feel very OP when they don't have a 40% buff now, do they? And, well, the other interesting thing is with that 8k gold vein, if one of you gets idled off that area, you're probably both going to be blocked out of gold entirely.
Yeah, one Knight just getting so much value there. Villager after villager just getting picked off there. And at that point already, we had a sizable economy lead for Ramen, for BLB and Jigglypuff. At this point in time, like, fishing also came in. It got shut down for Ramen. And here we had that moment where Dragoman, he just went a little bit too far with those crossbows, not having the scout there. And suddenly, we just see, when the mass isn't that big, losing 8 crossbows there early on definitely doesn't feel good.
I mean, the weird part is that even Ego Child to begin with, right? Like, you're up against French Knights. You have to be expecting them to be waiting in the wings somewhere. So, you know, I was a little bit shocked he even tried to take such an egregious move. He was so far up, so close to their production, so far away from his own. And, you know, that kind of slowed down the timing. I mean, he'd done a great job to re-bolster the crossbow count. He still ended up with 6 relics in the center of the map. But everything looked shaky at this point because although Dragovan had found a way out of the hole, Ramen was still struggling immensely, as we can see throughout this, right? Like, the eco count tells no lie. The reality check is now you've got all those relics. That means the HRE player doesn't have them, who would benefit a lot more. And then he's meant to do what? Build spears, as is the only thing he can afford? You're against mass Lombos. It counters everything at that point.
Yeah, it really, really does. Just having the HRE stuck in feudal age for such a long time without even like a good farm transition, also just being harassed time and time again by those ships on the sides, on the shoreline, you just can't really get into a stable position with the HRE where you want to usually be in. When your economy isn't even scaling that well, your allies got all the relics, so you kind of feel like pressured. Okay, I gotta get to Castle Age. I need those relics for me. You get double the value. Instead of having 6 relics worth of income, you're getting 12 relics worth of it. So definitely a situation where you want to have HRE in the Castle Age as soon as possible.
And thus we find ourselves here on Gorge, probably the best map for team games we've seen. And it is going to not feature the French that actually looked nightmarish for Jigglypuff in that Canadian series. No, instead, we're going to get HRE again on their side with Japanese. Delhi, Malians on the other. Feel like anyone got an edge on the draft here, Krakeny?
Delhi is pretty good. And Malians also very, very good here. I think these two civilizations in combination should mean that there should at least be like a good timing for the sacred sites, for 3 sacred sites to be captured up by the Delhi. After like 8 minutes, it's gonna start being a little bit more dangerous because Japan will probably reach age up. I think with Mali and Delhi in combination, you might be able to pressure Japan. It depends on where Japan is gonna spawn, if they're gonna spawn forward or backward. If Japan spawns back here, I think Devil's team is in a really, really good spot.
I guess one of the tricky areas is if you want to go for like an all-in timing, you've got one player who builds Ghazi, the other one who builds Javelins typically, right? Is that how you feel good? And that means you're countering the same thing. So that's something they need to be a little bit careful of. You're likely going to have to flood a lot of Donzos here is the Malians, which would potentially give Atri an opening into archers, maybe with just a thin layer of, say, men-at-arms or spears to front line. Comes down to spawn though, right? If you have the Japanese as your front side player, HRE's momentum is a little bit different. That's a little bit weird. It's also a little bit weird having HRE and Japanese on the same team, because although Japan doesn't have a huge buffer to relics, it is seen as their natural next step after going Castle Age. So you kind of have a similar conflict to what we saw, funnily enough, on the Volda team in game number 2.
Yeah, relics. Both players want to get them. To be fair, in the end, you always want to give them to the HRE just because they can make so much more stuff with those relics. Especially since Japan, they don't get type bonds. So even if they get all the relics in the late game, they're not going to really profit from them.
We're getting scammed. Well, let's see if we get scammed out of a 5-game series here. 2 points on the board already. DEBILS find themselves a match point. And if Voda lose here, they are eradicated from Winter Team Championship number 2. Let's find out if they can make their last stand and make it a valiant beginning of a comeback on Gorge.
All right, little drum roll here. And we do have Japan in the back for the Devils team. On the other hand side, we do have the Delhi in the front and Dragavan with the Malians in the back. So I think both teams here got a pretty good spawn with how they want their players to spawn in position-wise. Having the Delhi in the front, being able to just have a little bit less walk time towards those sacred sites and also being able to reinforce a little bit faster. Dragavan in the back should mean that we get the cattle ranches in a little bit like worry free. And overall, yeah, Dragavan economy should be very good in this game.
I think I find it can be a little bit of a double-edged sword, is usually when we see Malians on this map, they get tempted to put the ranches near the gold. In theory, good, right? Because you can defend it pretty solidly, but I think in this matchup, you might want to just disperse it a bit more, maybe play back towards the tree side, because if you focus all attention on one location, you know, you talk about HRE, Japanese, this is one civ that has a very good aggressive timing off of economy, and the other that has some of the best knights in the game. So you're kind of opening yourself up to potentially be punished there. But I do agree, you've got like the players in the right location, right? HRE want to try to play infantry, being front player they can. I'm actually curious if instead of going greed, we're going to see something like a Burgrave build here. One thing to keep an eye on is going to be Gotkowski's sheep count, because also with the buffs that Japanese receive to the berry gathering via the base rate increasing, it's much easier for BLB simply to go berries and throw most of his sheep to Gotkowski or a Burgrave spam.
Yeah, it always depends on what the early game is, because that is definitely the theory behind it. But if you're getting pressured, then you're gonna have to like worry about where you're getting your food from in the end. Nice Archon Chapel here. Boosts up both the gold, the wood line, and the villagers gathering under the TC. But yeah, I think Gotkowski definitely is gonna have to go into some feudal age units here. BLB probably just gonna be looking for that fast castle playstyle. Interesting thing to note, by the way, we did have 2 substitutes here in that game. You mentioned earlier with Gotkowski coming in for Jigglypuff. On the other hand side, for Ramen, we do now have Mahodo playing.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? It's like some of these teams, they added in a third player, and you're probably never going to see them coming out unless the person's ill, whereas these are 2 teams that actually have been shifting through the player base, right? So some specialists, if you will, you know, usually, if you see, for example, Byzantines, you're going to be expecting Jigglypuff on that team. Usually, if you see the Abbasids, you're going to be expecting Dragavan on the other team. But it's cool to see that they have that kind of deviation in roles, because also different players bring notably different playstyles.
Indeed. Switching for Gotkowski, maybe we're not getting a 3-0 after all, but it's going to be interesting to see how exactly this is getting played out. I mean, BLB here with the Japanese, we are definitely going to see those mounted samurai coming in here, no doubt about that. I'm wondering what Mahodo's game plan is. He is a very, very aggressive player, but I think his macro is a little bit more solid when it comes to when he wants to attack compared to what we had with Ramen last game.
Yeah, it's interesting with Mahodo actually, because I think we labeled him one of the cockroaches of midweek muster. He's very good at surviving really weird situations. I think he thrives as a defensive player, which is interesting as Delhi don't really play that defensive role. He's capable aggressively, but he seems most comfortable when the pressure is coming his way, right? Whereas with Delhi, you want to try to shift the pressure elsewhere on the map to those sacred sites, so you get a leg up per se. We'll see if he's able to do that. I mean, Gokowski on the opening, I would expect us to be looking at a spear beginning here, just because going archers doesn't really make much sense, right? You're against Ghazi and also potentially Javelin as a first. So spears is basically the ultimate counter.
Doom of Faith has come in here now for Mahodo. So we are going to get some additional scholars in. 2 have already been queued up. Immediately a mill coming in from Dragavan. So it will be interesting to see if maybe we're getting some pro scouts. Recently, I think we've seen a lot of Malian players just going for an early pro scout build as well with the warrior scouts. The interesting thing about warrior pro scouts is that warrior scouts get additional movement speed. That way, it is very tough for infantry to catch up to them while carrying deer.
Yeah. It's obnoxious actually because of the healing as well, right? It just feels very difficult to kill them swiftly, whereas normal scouts get a lot more punished. So Kuru coming out is kind of interesting. I wonder if there would have been an opening for Shinobi at all. I do think it gets slept on even in team games, right? Like, yes, it's a big map, but a few ninjas with, say, aggro for Gokowski could just open the battlements to flood in. Maybe they scoured and saw that it was the Malian player on the backside. They're like, okay, we would have wanted to attack the pit mine. I mean, actually, pit mine's always the same location, right? So theoretically, that could have been a play for them. Instead, they're just going to put all the onus on Gokowski to be present and BLB to be greedy.
Yeah. It's very tough to grasp that initial pit mine here on this map, since it's between 2 players. Dragman, so far, he hasn't sent out any villagers to build a second pit mine yet. There is a nice one at the top side, a large gold vein that he could, in theory, go out on.
Does he have wheelbarrow? I think he might have skipped wheelbarrow.
I think he's got it. He's been making a lot of cattle. Yeah, he doesn't have gold for any upgrades.
It just feels so awkward to get out there, right? It's very inefficient when you know you're up against a fast castler as well. BLB getting very close to his at this point. Gokowski did add in an archery range, right? Hasn't started producing out of it just yet. He's waiting for a justifiable reason to do so.
So far, just Spearman, as you mentioned, from Gokowski. I mean, it makes sense. So far, he's only scouted the Ghazi race. I think his scout just now should be seeing the archery range coming up. As he looms around it, hasn't quite spotted it out yet.
Oops.
Needs to go around the wood line there. Okay, he's going to find it in a little bit.
He's going to find it with double archery range, which is actually even better, right? So now, yeah, and this could be a huge surge because it's technically triple archery range, maybe even quadro if Mahodo puts a second scholar in there.
Yeah, so yeah, we're immediately seeing another archery range.
Attack up now coming. Floating gate on the way for BLB here. Should just be straight into the good old-fashioned Mounted Samurai. Honestly, this is the dream. One opponent is building Archers Ghazi, the other is building nothing, and will eventually try Ciphers, meaning Mounted Samurai can dominate. But BLB is being a little bit greedy about this placement. Should be able to get away with it, courtesy of the spears, though.
Archers are walking across at the same time, though, and there aren't any archers yet from Gokowski. Gonna have to rush that age up.
The villager's starting to get poked as well, so distraction kind of working out. We'll force him to recalibrate on the north side here. Archer's a little bit slow to arrive, so Mahodo, I mean, with this type of production rate, he should be able to keep numerical advantage from this point. But I'm seeing gaps, right? It's almost like he hasn't got enough food gathering going on. And yes, Dragavan's entire Malian army just died there.
He does at least pretty much have the cow boom fully finished up now at this point in time. Archers still trying to be annoying. I mean, in low count, you can still use your spearmen against the archers, especially as HRE, since they do have more movement speed. Stable also getting prepped now for BLB.
So they're stopping the tech up now. Let's go try archers. We start to dive in. That's going to force a reaction from Gokowski. Should have enough spearmen here to protect his own archers and shove this away. So
good play.
Mahodo, he bought some time. But now the reckoning is coming. Japanese mounted samurai are about to hit the field.
It feels like there are some big macros right now for Mahodo in his economy. He's floating 500 wood.
Yeah, I feel like I mentioned this earlier, right? The food just didn't seem to be there. It's because, and I'm actually struggling to figure out exactly why, because I thought at one stage he was going to produce more Ghazi. That was the cause of this, but we haven't seen an increase in Ghazi at all. So at this stage, I mean, the only thing I can imagine is that he didn't calibrate correctly for the shift across the food. Like, we're seeing him out in the next berries, right? So I think you had this big gap that he slipped and lost track of when he was kiting the spearman.
This is very worrisome now. We have a big army here from Goatkowski and BLB also. Now with the just very, very high value Mounted Samurai coming in, Dragovan behind this is trying to age up with the Grand Falani Corral, but I'm wondering what unit he can make against this now. We're seeing this barracks being prepped, but nothing out of the barracks can really deal with the archers.
No. I get the idea, right? You need to get a lot of spears out now for the Mounted Samurai, granted. Respectable, but the reality check here is that with the H3 economy as it is, the archer issue is a bigger, more critical element that needs to be addressed. I mean, Dragovan's best pundit is actually probably Sofa, which he can afford with the Fulani.
The macro issue, it switched around now. Instead of having too much wood, he's having too much food. Now he can't make any more archers.
It's like, stop looking. Why do you guys keep judging my economy? Because Mahodo, every single little ounce of gold or food off is going to matter here. Mounted Samurai are coming, and they are not going to slow down in quantity as this goes on.
Villagers? Where are they going?
Position to find themselves in, and I don't know where they're going to heaven to see Grandpa and Grandma as my guess there. Mounted Samurai now just absorbing all the shots coming in. The archers need to focus, find the right thing. The A clicks are not helping Mahodo here. Just losing his blob, and behind this, I mean, well, what have we got from Dragovan? We've just got two Donzos, and this series looks exactly that. Done.
Yeah, there's nothing really coming in right now from Dragovan's side. I mean, sure, he got the economy now with the Grand Falani Corral, but he's sacrificing his ally for it.
Yeah, and Mahodo has shifted his trees to the backside, so he's gathering his wood there as well. So he has at least migrated the base, but at this stage now you don't have gold. So if you were going to try anything other than Donzos, you can't now afford it.
Something to note as well, does Dragovan... No, Mahodo does have a blacksmith. He does have a double blacksmith. And they should be connected as well. But yeah, I was wondering, like, he doesn't have all the feudal age upgrades in at this point in time. They're only just now coming in. They must have just come in, yeah.
I mean, they're not going to wave the white flag straight away, right? But we're kind of quickly approaching a point where they're not going to have much say in the matter. As long as BLB doesn't do something stupid like sending all the Mounted Samurai to sit underneath the TC for 10 minutes, right? Even if they've done that, the fact they're going to survive for 10 minutes says everything it needs to. Donzos are at least starting to mass up for Dragovan. Has got 10 together now, but the archer count is still looking scary here from Goatkowski.
Yeah, the situation really doesn't feel good at all. Once again, a little migration there on the wood line coming in.
Secondary tree line saving their bacon from getting cooked here, but we still have trickling of archers coming into Mahodo's economy to make his life a living hell. And archers with the marching drills able to just dive past here. Going again. Hits the archer mass. We'll be able to get the villagers, the Malians as well. Donzo's now reacting exactly what you don't want to be doing against archers here. Feels like he needs to, though. Goatkowski, I mean, he does need to rebalance things a little bit. It looks like he was trying to get ready for Castle Age. Realized the mistake, though, and has started to reinvest in archers again.
If Dragovan just had a market up and was able to sling a little bit of food over to Mahodo, I think maybe Mahodo could still, like, make some Ghazi rares or something here. But the Mounted Samurai, funnily enough, are taking some unfavorable traits here against the Donzos.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit off from Goatkowski and BLB. It looked like Goatkowski was getting ready for an age up. I mean, that one night actually done more work than the last four we just watched, right? So that's a big hit there. Mahodo is getting grinded down. He's only got 27 villages now.
There was never a move out onto the sacred sites as well, which is kind of scary to think about.
I just don't think you can here, right? Like when you saw the archer blob coming and you were trying to block the Japanese timing, I can kind of respect that Mahodo didn't try for that. Even though he's got 10 scholars, it probably wouldn't have went very well by the time he would have been doing it. But yeah, it is kind of depressing to pick Delhi and not even be using one of their biggest edges in the second age.
feel like you could at least distract a couple of units just by going for these Sacred Sites props. And I mean, to be fair, he could have started taking Sacred Sites 6 minutes ago when BLB still was in Feudal Age and Gotkowski only had Spearmen out.
Oh, Steb. Now he just feels dirt poor. We have still only got Mounted Samurai from BLB, so no switch up coming there at least. And then as they've got some breathing room, they're going to use it now, getting the Sofas we talked about earlier. The problem is Sofas will not beat Mounted Samurai on their own. So at this rate, Dragoman's going to end up 2v1ing, which is concerning here.
I mean, the Sofa at least do supply Dragoman with a certain degree of mobility to potentially get some raids in as well. I'm looking at the bases though, and there isn't really a big move out from BLB onto outer resource. I think he's on the deer at the bottom side, but Gotkowski as well is very much just confined into his own base, and it's going to be tough to really find good villager pickoffs here with the Sofas.
I'm wondering. I mean, Voda can't really rush an age up here, right? I guess the only thing you can do is just try to bring more food back for you and your ally, right? It looks like that's what he's doing with more scouts being built. I mean, he is the truest definition of a support player you can imagine in this game right now. And even that seems to be failing him.
Yeah. Dragoman, though, has managed to get a good military mass going against. And, I mean, Donzos, they are still, like, the best counter unit to knights in the game.
Yeah. I think from here, you know, BLB can either switch into maybe something a little bit slower or even better. Gotkowski now goes for the castle play, and you just start flooding men-at-arms, right? Because at that stage, you can just win, or you can just go mass spears. Wall on the back, not needed. They will be killed off before it finishes. And we have got quite a few farms coming in for BLB. So with that and the Eurosure drop in the TC, his ability to blob Mounted Samurai is going to get stronger and stronger as this game goes on.
More and more coming in. The issue that I see is Dragoman is starting to mass up a significant amount of units at this point in time. I mean, sure, in theory, Dragoman and Voda, they're down 20 units at this point in time, but 20 villagers or economic units, it doesn't really matter. Dragoman can somewhat make up for it. He's floating a lot of food behind this. The issue is if Marlene units are strong enough here.
Yeah, and we say you can make up for it, but like we have to remember H-tier economy very strong, right? So like the gap's kind of deceptive. We can say that Fulani's worth about 20 villages, but then we have to respect the 40% buffer. A little bit of a raid coming in as Mount Samurais keep chipping down Voda. Pushback is going to continue though, so looks like they've blobbed up for a strong push timing here. The Sofas are a good bolster line, but the Donzo count may leave us a bit wanting in this engagement. Only about 8 of them left. Mount Samurai seem to be targeting the Sofa in most of this engagement though, so not actually dealing with the unit that's countering. Finally will be on top of them. And now you can focus on those archers. Backstab coming in. It looks like Gotkowski's second wave is late to arrive, but it cuts the reinforcing Donzos before they can finish off the Samurai.
Sofa's coming in once again, and Voda so far, he's done a very good job of sniping out these spearmen. That is very, very important. The spearmen right now, together with the Mounted Samurai, which now aren't that massive in numbers anymore, are the only unit that can deal with the Sofas.
Meanwhile, Dragoman has chosen to run into those remaining spearmen. Oh no. That's an expensive loss of Sofa that just felt entirely unnecessary after they took quite a good engagement there. I mean, was he being distracted? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Is like, why did he not notice that for so long? There might have been a Mounted Samurai or two in his base, because I did notice a green blob at the back. Yeah, up here, just got killed.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think what happened is Dragoman looked away for a second, forgot to pull them back, and as a result, lost about an extra 9 of those Sofas.
Group once again happening in the middle. Gotkowski doesn't look like he wants to go up to the next age anytime soon.
I like this. I mean, you know, BLB is benefiting from having those relics for the time being, and then down the line, he can exchange them over to you to just supercharge you when you do go age free.
Still, there are more and more Sofas and Donzos coming in. BLB still doing a very good job of massing up his own Mounted Samurai.
This war is just so difficult to do. It's interesting that Mahodo's still got villagers going out there to do that instead of just sending over some archers as well. In fact, has he been using villagers on all those wall segments? Because that sounds kind of crazy.
I think so.
Oh no,
it's
okay,
actually
these ones are archers. Okay, that's good. I hope the one down here was an archer as well, because like you remember at this stage with the nerfs they done to walling for villagers, it's just as quick to use infantry.
Yeah. And he has gotten one of the sacred sites now behind this, so at least a little bit of gold trickle coming in once again. And Mahodo is slowly getting enough resource to potentially go for an age up. He still has 10 scholars inside of his base. So if he goes up to Castle Age, he is going to get every single upgrade under the sun and very, very quickly. Now the fight coming in though.
He does at least realize being raided. So BLB does take a few eco losses on that gold vein, but it's garrisoning. The clash comes in here. And, well, the Donzos need to try and get on this Mount Samurai line. The Uber Bannerman's buffing them up, so they hit incredibly hard. Archers need to find a way of just clicking them down in this giant engagement. Sofas are starting to reach around to the backside of this. And it looks like the Mount Samurai line may not have been strong enough here. Only about 8 of them left to frontline against, what, 10 to 12 Sofa at least.
Spearmen are getting cleaned up from Godkowski. And now the Sofa can rain wild here.
Yeah, I think they misread this timing. I think Gokowski, the time was now to try and go for Castle. He was so focused on keeping Mahodo here, he just kept himself now in H2. Well, Mount Samurai are at least arriving, but the Sofa count is already big enough to push that back. So we have to reset and go back to the drawing board because they took some eco losses, but also gave military advantage over to the Volda boys.
This is starting to get really, really rough now. Kowski might be looking for an age up now behind us as well. He is stockpiling a lot of resources.
I mean, it just felt entirely unnecessary, right? You know, I always talk about this whole idea, like when a guy is very dead, it's better to take your own advantage, right? It sounds kind of boring and underwhelming, but the logic is, you know, let's put it in basic terms. You've got a TC can hold 15 villages in a Crackety. Now, if I have you at 30 villages and I kill 5, is there more value in trying to dive you again, or do I stop, right? Like, technically, there's 10 villages running around, but, you know, there was 15 opportune targets before, now there's 10. That's 33% less, right? And I think we kind of reached that point with Mahodo, and instead of leaving him alone and just now getting the age up and maybe poking at Dragovan, we just saw constantly them beating this already dead corpse.
And now House of Learning is going to be coming in. Gorkowski still looking for his own age up, only missing the gold right now to go up. Something that he could, in theory, achieve with the age up if he just goes for a Burgrave Palace, mass men-at-arms with the heavy maces, would do well against both the archers and the Sofas here. But good raids coming in from Dragovan.
It's too much gold gathering. Yeah, he never moved away after he got raided here last time. Didn't wall himself in either, so big losses for BLB in this area. He has at least got 2 TC, right? So we'll be able to replace those losses fast. What I'd love to see now from Dragovan is a little bit of slinging here. Like, just getting 2 or 3 elephants out against what you're up against is incredibly impactful for Mahodo.
Oh no, that's the entire gold gathering from Gorkowski here now.
Let's go shuffle away. Dragovan suspicious. He goes, wait a second, why would there be a mining camp here? What are you up to? He has a secondary group to sandwich this. Gokowski. There's a glimpse there. Dragovan, he does know. He's found him. He's wrapping around now, and this is going to be a big grab. Gokowski not even reacting anymore.
If I stand still, surely he can't see me. Reinforcements are coming. They're wrapping around the wrong side of the woodline, though. And it's a good amount of villagers going down here. Gorkowski still so many resources in the bank right now. Needs a market maybe to balance out the economy. Definitely age up needed now. That both enemies are now in H3 and all sacred sites have been taken as well.
Yeah, this is like wearing your winter overalls in a muddy swamp area. It turns out yellow doesn't blend well into the green. So camo didn't work out from there. Gorkowski does at least get back to the goal now. I mean, if you look at his economy, you want to go, oh my god, it's going to Imperial Age. No, he needs to hit that 3rd age first. And pressure is coming in at the other end. After they force the reaction of the army, the Sofas are now diving towards the Arkin.
All barracks have just been prepped behind this, so I guess it wasn't going to be a Burgrave, but instead just normal Regnits with additional barracks.
Well, needs to now, right? Like, you're taking hits.
He needs to be here.
Archers.
Cannot take this fight alone.
I mean, these are veteran archers. Mahodo kind of can take this fight on his own, though, right? There's only a handful of Mount Samurai in the vicinity from BRB. So we'll frontline with that, just trying to poke away at the Spearmen. Maybe a little bit of an overextension here. Sofas are going to finally start getting mixed in. A lot of idle time as well. Keep in mind, Gorkowski may be able to get the tech up. This is practically all of his food gathering right now inaccessible.
Still has a lot of food in the bank, but yeah, it's gonna be rough. Once he gets up, he's only gonna be able to queue around like 6-7 minute arms.
Oh,
at least
Samurai response.
in.
Good hit. So chase back there. Mahodo, as he starts to recover his eco, is going to be going into despair again. But Gokowski is joining him in that regard, down to 53 villagers, and the first elephants starting to arrive.
Much being done inside the base of BLB as well. Needs to make some mounted samurai in order to defend himself there. Looks like his gold income has also been hit a little bit. Only 6 villagers in gold currently for him.
Yeah, BLB, I like his approach here. Instead of being reactionary, he's taking it to be productive, right? He's hunting eco now. We're at a stage of the game on Gorge where naturally people's 8k vein is expired. They have to take risk. And he's not just finding the 8k vein surplus on the flanks, he's now finding the farm. So big hits here from BLB that are starting to strangle Dragavan a little as well.
Yeah, is able to get some good pickups there in the economy, and Dragavan only on 40 villagers. Mind you, though, the Grand Fulani Corral is still a thing.
Yeah, well, it makes up for villagers, but only so many. Like, this many, kind of.
Good thing. Only this many, but then you're at like 20 villagers and still able to constantly produce military.
That's true, but Gokowski is up at 56, likely with some relics being dropped off. In fact, they've been exited from the Shinto shrine, so we're gonna see Gokowski's eco inflate like crazy here. Meanwhile, Mount Samurai able to buffer away the sofa. It feels like Dragavan just unable to hang around long enough to do some real damage here. I mean, congrats, you killed like 2 villagers, right? It's not good enough. I love this little handover, one by one, from the Shinto shrine. It's like, hold it for 10 seconds. It's almost ceremonial. Hold the relic for 10 seconds. The first, like, dude, I'm German. I want to be efficient. Can we get a move on here? Like, no, we must really follow the procedures. Let me drop another relic for you. So 2 relics now garrison. Third to be done so with soon. And Gokowski is putting that gold to good work. We have crossbow production underway.
Golden Come once again stable for him as well.
Dragavan does finally deal with that Mount Samurai raid, brings everything home essentially. But
don't really have anything against the elephant play yet. There are crossbows coming in for Gokowski. He's going to need a lot of them against the elephants and the silvers.
Crossbows, right? Like, very good in that regard. The sofa count is scaring me though. We're up to 37. The only upside right now for the Devils boys, Dragavan's economy is now smaller than Mahodo's, which is quite the statement to make in this game for anyone who's watching it from the start.
3 sacred sites though captured up once again, and we're getting a keep with the mosque here for the Wi-Fi network to come in. So Village Fortress is definitely an option here for him.
Well, if he can get enough time with it, right? Like, with the crossbow count going up, maybe it should inflate quite quickly. So Devils have its return, and look at that defeat. Vile, stinking defeat. The elephants were so OP, they plowed into the Microsoft Azure server room, destroyed everything, brought the stream down, and brought Volda back from the edge.
Indeed, Volda Esports now with a point on the board. The elephants coming in, and with that mass at that point in time, looks like Gokowski and BLB, they just didn't have enough military force there in order to push back into that one. Once Steli gets up to castle age, they unlock a lot of resources for completely free, so able to shift the balance there in that game and able to push back into that one, now getting a point on the scoreboard.
That's going to be a big morale resetter, right? Disrupt rather the momentum rather, and all of a sudden you can have a completely different series on your hands. So we're going to get ready quite swiftly for the 4th game, as I think the boys are about ready to get underway with that one. In terms of what we had left, I believe Himeyama, and it might have been Dry Arabia if I'm not mistaken. And Dry Arabia is where we shall go. Ayubid's Byzantines up against Rus Abbasids.
Abbasid and Rus, definitely strong civilizations here, but the same can be said about the Ayubids and the Byzantines. Byzantines and Ayubids very strong on 1 TC, Abbasid and Rus very strong when they go onto multiple TCs here in this game. Wonder how exactly they're going to play this one out.
So if I remember correctly, Gukowski, was it Gukowski or BLB that's usually the Abbasid player?
Should be BLB, I want to say.
So. Yeah, and he's quite the boomer, right? He'll likely be going for the 3 or 4 TC build. So then it's all on either Jigglypuff or Gukowski to provide. Considering Roost can be a Night Civ, it might be that we see Jigglypuff tagged back in here, which would keep with the flow things, right? With shifting the players around. Tricky part about trying to play Knights is you're up against Hybrids, right? Desert Raiders will be a nice blocker, and also if this is going to be a Keshik build, that's actually going to give mid-map control across the Volda. But let's find out. It's time to hop into game number 4 between DEBILS and Voda. Can they continue this miraculous comeback? The Elephants delivered them in the last game, and in fairness, Byzantines can get Elephants as well.
Let's jump into that one. Still, match point for the DEBILS team. But now with a point on the board, Volda Esports, they do still have a leg in this set. They're not completely out yet.
And we are doing the most important of checks. What have we got on the table? Kind of like the idea of Sipahi. Unfortunately, too far away from them. Dry Arabia is going to be the map. Configuration is fairly balanced for most civs to be functional here, but also Dry Arabia doesn't necessarily give you that layering defense you're always looking for. In fact, you can see on the south side, Mahodo is already struggling a little bit with that in the way that it's spawned, right? Berries on the forward, tree lines to the sides. It leaves you a little bit more exposed to some pressure. Must be very thankful then that you're up against the Abbasids that always tend to sit on their ass for about 10 minutes in these team games.
Yeah, it does have Gukowski on the opposite side, though. And Roos, I mean, there's the option of going for a fast Castle Age or also some Feudal Age Knights, depending on what exactly you want to go for. We do have a double hunting cabin opening here from Gukowski. So he's going to be getting a lot of gold in passively at this point in time.
Yeah, this build has just been taken over in 1v1s, team games everywhere. It just seems to be the go-to. Very nice as well when you can also get those kind of like double tree lines, right? You would have wished you got BLBs where it's basically wedged between 2. But you'll settle for a nice trickle of probably about 19 gold per hunting cabin. Pays off very fast here. BLB likely going to be going for the Eco Wing. No surprises to be had there. Dragavan can be a little bit crafty with his House of Wisdom choices on this particular Civ though. I don't want to say Gamble Wing, but I have seen this man do Gamble Wing more than most players actually in the top 200.
Gambling definitely an option. I wonder when you really want to go for it. Usually in Castle Age, that's when you get the most value for the time that you're getting it at. It is always, as the name implies, a little bit of a gamble. Are you going to get good units, or are you going to suddenly be in a fast castle position where suddenly you redeem some tickets, have like a lot of stone, and want to go for multiple TCs?
Right, it's kind of weird. Like the idea of gambling is cool, but because you have to wait for that first ticket to really know what you're doing, that means you've got almost 2 minutes where you're just gathering, and you can be gathering for the entirely wrong thing, right? So like, what do? Do you jack of all trades, gather the economy for more military or more greed, and then flip coin, or do you just basically, just punt it into greed or aggro, and then assume the ticket's gonna be nice to you? We might want to check on what Dragavan chose here. Is mark the tech up. Dervish is pretty good in this comp as well. He goes for the old school. Yeah.
That's a little bit odd. I feel like either like the Dervish Wing is really good just in general, being able to safely stay on your resources without really the fear of any idle time by just small unit count raids, and does go for the Reinforcement Wing instead. So is going to be able to trickle in some Desert Raiders for free, but honestly, I think that's not the best choice to make here.
No. I think that's way too old school of a build. It just doesn't really have the same value anymore. The reality check here is Growth Wing would have given you more economy, right? Dervish would have given you more presence, would have given you a pivot into Castle Age, is very powerful, but also would have enabled your ally to get aggressive, right? Imagine having Keshiks here with Dervish. Just a very unstoppable force in the early game, would allow the Keshiks to dive economies and come back and heal. Instead, now you've got like a Desert Raid to assist, cool. What does that really help your ally on the Byzantines with, though? It doesn't.
He could try to apply some pressure over on BLB as he is moving out onto the stone for additional TCs, but more likely is that by the time that BLB is gonna, by the time the Desert Raider arrives, the TC is probably already up on stone, and then it's gonna be very tough to deny the third TC. And stable as well.
Okay. So he's trying to ramp here. The problem, like you said, is the time is going to be off, because realistically BLB should be able to build that second TC. on the stone, which would then secure the gold and the deer nearby, right? So he has actually got a very nice spawn here to completely swat away this opening play from Dragavan. I think Mahoda on the other side, I mean, he's already going into Limitane. So they've just assumed that Gokowski is going to be spamming knights, as opposed to like the potential for a weird double greed build here from DEBILS.
I mean, Gokowski in theory could have also gone for fast castle age build, but it's not as good when you go for the Kremlin. It's still possible, but the timing isn't quite as snappy, and you lack the flexibility that you get with that golden gate in order to quickly swap around your resources. First Knight is going to be in queue now. I think the Desolator is actually going to come in at a very nice timing here. So BLB is going to have to go for a TC, not on stone, but on the gold rather. And instead of going for 3 TC, it's just going to be 2 TCs. That's still very, very fine.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, actually, are we going to be getting the Keswick still? I mean, this is the weird thing, right? In a 1v1 setting, when a Byzantine player goes for the spears, you can almost guarantee it's always going to be javelins. But in team games, it feels a little bit different, right? Like, considering your opponents, jabs probably feel quite underwhelming here. He goes for it anyway.
Javelin throws coming in. Typically, I also just quite like longbows, just because longbows in general feel really, really good at the moment, thanks to the university upgrades that they get in the late game. Javelin throws, you kind of, like, it's a unit that you make in feudal age. And then you don't really want to make it any time later on. Meanwhile, with the longbows, you're very fine with just having your landmark as well. Just produce it constantly.
Yeah, in a 1v1, the jabs are pretty good here, right? Because when you're against the Bastards, it gives you a block of the Camel Archers, and then the follow-up play, getting into Camel Riders, is phenomenal to have, right? It gives you a little bit of contest against your opponent's own camels. But even then, like, you know, the Camel Rider logic doesn't really hold, because it's the same reason why when you're against the Malians, you don't necessarily want to go javelins. Same reason why when you're against the English, you have to be very careful about your longbow timings, is they technically can flood a lot more troops than you'll be capable of.
That's the issue there.
So this is just a full on guard. Mahodo is just going to pad his teammate. Tech up has already been activated. I think that was an advancement choice.
No, that was economic growth.
Okay, yeah, okay.
No, wait. Industry?
Industry? Okay. I told you this guy.
Sure.
Do you like TCs? We like TCs. I mean, it's only an Abasa player on 2 TCs, so mirrorable, I guess, in this situation. Meanwhile, Gokowski. Looks like we might be getting pro scouts. Can we check if that came in? Other hunting cabin. Is that just wheelbarrow then? Yeah, it must be. If we click on it. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so just getting more vision with the secondary scout.
I mean, what's he going to get out of this one? One free town center, but he's still going to be behind in the economy from BLB. Meanwhile, if he goes for economic growth, he's immediately going to be even, and then has the opportunity to scale further with relics.
Wait, no.
Going for March?
I know what this is.
Or like double? Oh, no. You know.
Yeah, you know.
That's why it's the reinforcement wing.
That's why he wanted a reinforcement wing. He's going to build a Tower of the Sultan.
Oh, God. That's a very interesting move. I don't know what you're going to use the stone for then. I guess it won't be used.
I mean, maybe you pull villagers to repair the Tower of the Sultan and they build outposts. Just, this reeks of Tower of the Sultan build. Like, he's spamming Desert Raiders right now. He'll have them in position to build one, and then presumably he's going to dive into BLB's base. But this is, like, dangerous against this many knights, right? Like, sure, you know, Desert Raiders are annoying against this, but the problem with the Tower of the Sultan build, the reason why it kind of feels flawed in 2v2 maps is your villagers are nowhere near. So unless you want to idle your economy and bring them to the front line, it's kind of a one punch and either you miss or you win.
What is BLB doing behind this? BLB aging up anytime soon? We don't see an age up yet in the overlay for him. I'm wondering what to find. Oh, what? No. Oh no, we're getting a stone tower rush.
This is in fact legal these days, folks. The stone towers were rebalanced quite a while ago to a point that it was removed from the rulebook that you couldn't build them. So it's going to be a double tower rush. Oh, well, you wanted to know what he was going to do with the stone.
Now we know.
I wish I did.
Now we know.
BLB's like, can you help me, please? I was like, sorry, bro. I've got knights for the mid map. No one said anything about walls.
Yeah, this is going to be a difficult situation, Grant. The javelin throwers, they're going to do an excellent job here against the camel archers as well.
And then they always have the fallback plan of going up on that wall.
Yeah. That's right, you can always go up the wall. Yeah, he just needs to evacuate the woodline there, rebuild somewhere else, and as soon as the Tower of the Sultan overextends a little bit, that's when you can take a fight. But right now, I think you have to, like, just abandon this spot right now for the time being.
So, frontline infrastructure being taken down. Means BLB's attempt to get into archers is going to be slowed, even more so for a guy who can barely touch a tree line anymore. And Gokowski, I mean, this mass knight strategy, I think the best thing you do is actually attack the enemy economy. Not just stand here, because the reality is, you're not that scary. It's mass limitane.
It is difficult to move out at this point in time, because you kind of always need to be on standby for your ally. But now, with the top
it's an ambassador player. He can replace the villagers. They're cheap. Leave him to his own fate. You can tell I'm definitely enjoying team games. Desert Raiders moving in.
Oh, no.
And melee mode as well at that. Makes it even worse. BLB rapidly going to lose this secondary TC. Remember, 2,500 HP and 600 per shunt from the Sultan. Knights are going to charge in.
No.
Keep in mind, I'm pretty sure Dragonman just has the villagers sitting in there, 5 idle.
Yeah, he's repairing it.
There we go.
Oh my
like,
God.
This is so cheesy. I've seen this before. This is actually vile. The things it'll do to a man. Knight's going again. It's even worse damage this time due to the Desert Raider aura. So second TC's going to go down. Not much of an eco lead to be had here. In fact, it's about to evaporate.
Was he trying to age up behind this? He's almost got 1,200 food in the bank, but now he's lost all the villager advantage.
For what, though? Like, were you going to build camel riders against mass limitane? No.
I could see if it's like mass archers with military wing and composite bows, but
true.
You lost the woodline access.
Yeah, so are you getting that creeping feeling we're going to a game 5 here?
I think it might just be the case.
Do we accredit this win to the Tower of the Sultan or the Stonewall Tower?
Tower of the Sultan, I think. I think the Stonewall Tower did nothing.
Got it. So Stonewall Towers need to be buffed. Tower of the Sultan OP needs to be nerfed. I think that covers all. Oy, oy, oy. I mean, this is the pain point, right? Like on Season A, the way out would have been you go H3 as BLB and you build 2 Springles. And that's it. Yeah. That's all it takes. But Springles don't count this anymore. Like, this is something I warned about. I love the siege changes, but I think the changes actually did make Tower of the Sultan viable. Situational, yes, but it doesn't have that meaningful counter of just anti-siege that it had on the previous batch.
This was a nice strategy, though. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with how it played out, with the ability of the Byzantines to just be able to mass out like a fully army composition by just making a midnight.
I mean, this is the thing. I've seen him try this in 1v1 and it didn't work, right? But that's the thing. That's the dynamic difference, is when you just focus all your resources into this, and as you're saying, you have an ally that fills that infantry void. All of a sudden, this build looks insanely oppressive. It looks like BLB, he has got some wood gathering going on. He's shuffled across into his allies' base. Military wing down the way. Yeah.
It's gonna be enough. Desert Raiders, they are vetted up. They have veterancy on them, so charge at least, though, is gonna do a good amount of damage.
They'll run back to the safety of the Tower of the Sultan. 1 or 2 knights decide to valiantly hang around for no reason. And all of a sudden, what was going to be a good exchange turns into a bad exchange for Gokowski. The good news is, there is a counter to this, Krakeny. You move away.
You run, you evacuate, you try again later.
This is why Mongols are OP.
Yeah, and if the Tower of Sultan ever is like alone, the knights can dive onto that one. And the units, I guess in theory, Mahodo, can he put his units inside of the... He should be able to put it inside the Tower of the Sultan, so he could dodge the...
hello?
But there we go.
This is big.
Being left alone.
Overextension there. Knights get in, and that is going to be Tower of the Sultan. Wait, no, Gokowski.
Oh, gets it done.
Down. There we go. the biggest
Desiderator's
threat.
taking a lot of damage from the TC.
Yeah, this is an ambitious dive. This whole army doesn't really want to be underneath there. And this is also alleviate pressure from the other side. BLB has blown the archer count up to 19. Military wing almost complete. No doubt composite bows will be rapidly rushed behind that. Dragonman
It's going to be needed.
I wonder if after all this you kind of wish you'd not completed the Stonewall Tower and built a TC instead.
A TC definitely would have been nice. We're just now seeing the first mosque.
I mean, no surprise, right? He put everything on the front line. Desert Raider spam has been almost infinitesimal at this stage. They're about to run into a problem. The archers can soon get vetted. There'll be a rush towards the composite bows as well. All of a sudden, these Desert Raiders, these Limitane, they're going to feel hard counted. At that point, you only have Mahodo's javelins to fall back on.
Mahodo, he's not anywhere near age up at this point in time, so these javelin throwers, they don't have the tools really to deal even with the archers there. Once that composite bows upgrade comes in, and plus the damage, they're going to be able to make quick work of them. Now Raid coming in as well.
This could be big. Mahodo won't be able to play catch up with this type of pressure coming in on him, barreling into his base. There's a villager there. If he goes south side, if he checks the berries, there's also gathering down there, but instead he might be inclined to hang around and burn down an outpost, considering all the Limitane are at the other side of the map.
Could potentially even dive the TC there, but doesn't want to quite go in there from a moment. Like if you lose those military units, you're dead. So he has to be very careful with how he wants to use them.
Yeah, a bit underwhelming from Gurkowski there, the approach for this. Like, he has 3 scouts in total, right? So you could have peeled into 2 different raid groups to go checking both players' bases. Like, they put everything on the front line. That was your moment to strike. But instead, he's moving around with one big bulk group. Very greedy approach, because it just means that they can communicate which direction the knights went in and then shuffle their economy accordingly.
Trying to take down a wooden fortress there. I mean, these units don't have any pierce armor, and it looks like Dragovan, he's not paying attention. He might lose a lot of his units here.
And the Limitane on the way. Mahodo's trying to play attention to it, but it may be a little bit too late here. So many Desert Raiders dead there. Villagers are going to look to make their escape. And Gurkowski, he makes the best of a bad situation there. Kills as many of the Desert Raiders as he can, gets away. Knights, meanwhile, raiding on the other side of the map. The wall's going up just in the nick of time there before they would have leaked into the berries.
Yeah, Knights now have to look around and try not to die there. Could, in theory, take the fight against just a couple of Desert Raiders as well.
Gurkowski, he's getting ready for an age up here, guys. I mean, look at it. He's got the food, just needs to sort the gold. Mahodo, meanwhile, is going to be the odd one out. The ugly duckling here, right? A lot of Limitane, sure, but...
He's at 12 on gold now, so he's definitely looking for an age up.
Oh, we'd have Rams coming in, so a way of addressing those Stonewall Towers, so you can get access to his tree line again. Well, it's not just archers, he's also prepped the crossbows, so where this could go next.
I think they need to trade out some military here relatively soon. It's 50 limit now, so if you get in there with those archers now, with composite bows as it's just coming in, you're going to be able to get a good cleanup. You don't want to let those javelin throwers get bedded up.
No, I mean, you can kind of justify it if the knights are there, right? Like, very powerful tool here, and Gurkowski, in theory, he should be looking for that age up soon. 31 knights sounds like a good time to hop off the feudal train.
Kremlin's just being redeemed. Not sure what exactly they're going for. There was a lot of them as well. Looks like they want to get a pinch in on the military, but weren't quite fast enough there.
Hold on, he's frontlining with the jabs. Mono not looking.
Oh,
big mistake made. And wow, he doesn't pull the javelins back. Greedy. Composite bow archers now diving in. Able to stand their ground at this stage. The javelin count a little bit too low. Knights need to be careful about their position in this fight. There's still a decent amount of Limitane left and more are arriving. So at this stage, I think you just kind of start back with BLB and let him trade out.
Limit 9 as well with their sheet wall. In theory, they don't do as much damage now to the Knights because their attack speed is pretty much nothing.
Look at the expenses in that fight, though. A lot of Desert Raiders going down. Javelin mass reduced down to just 8. Knight count still looking pretty healthy at 22 for Gurkowski. There's that resecure on the tree lines we were talking about, so we'll see a lot more archers coming soon for BLB.
Hodo now should be able to age up. The Castle Age Golden Horn Tower is coming in, so no gulp. happening here today, but definitely not needed. At this point in time, like against the army composition that your opponent has, you're gonna be able to scale into your own camel riders.
Didn't we? Yeah, well, BLB, he was playing on the English in the previous game, the game 2, right, with longbows. Now he's got mass archers. Does his name just stand for big long bows?
Surely that's what it is.
Yeah.
A couple of villagers getting potentially picked off. Still no castle age coming from Gorgowski. He's got 1,600 gold in the bank.
It's happening, yeah. He's just recalibrating now, right? Which is not too bad to float this extra gold. He can put it to work, getting the veterancies, getting the blacksmith tech, sell some of it as well. It's a high trade house now on the way up for him. A lot of walls have been going up from Voda and Dragovan to kind of bolster themselves in that mid-map area. And we have to also remember that relics have been coming home for Dragovan, right? A booster for him that the others don't have.
Knights right now still running. It's kind of crazy how long these knights have been able to take trades against the veterancy desert raiders.
Yeah. Well, BLB, he's actually shoving in towards where the walls are going up. Mahodo backs away just before it becomes pain.
Castle Age has been reached. You're able to... Wait, are they already upgraded?
No.
That was quick. That was
But yeah,
no,
actually, yeah. Level 3, yeah. Dialecticus, man. I'm telling you, it's not a reasonable tech. Backstab's coming in. BLB has completely misread the state of play here.
While the title was still, Mahodo has just reached the castle age, the upgrade immediately comes in. My god, was that quick. And now the longbows, the archers are going to have some issues here. There's some camel lances now as well, so not just the desert raiders anymore. Armored units, not something that he can deal with just archers now.
This Night Mass, I mean, it needs to turn into something else, right? Like now with Camel Lancers there, it gets even worse for Gorgowski. He needs to find a pivot point here, but it just feels awkward. Your natural pivot when you have all this surplus passive gold is usually crossbows. You could do that, but then you've got archer crossbows between two players. You're just begging to get javelined in the face.
There's no economic scaling at the moment coming in for BLB, so he probably wants to... Yeah, there we go. Second TC now once again gets dropped. Actually, two TCs.
Yep. I mean, if they deny you off your stone, just come back harder a little bit later. I mean, you need it at this stage. You know Dragovan would have been taking relics from the center of the map. Gorgowski, however, a little bit more of a conundrum. Like, where's his eco advantage coming from? That high trade house placement wasn't great. He'd already chopped through half the tree line, so I imagine it's probably like a 111 gold, maybe. Which
BLB has any food right now, and they got half the military out. They need a lot of units soon.
It's not just that. Gorgowski's in the middle of a farm transition, right? So his ally went free TC. He's going farm transition. Militarily, they're already doubled up on. Dragovan and Mahodo have a very powerful timing right now.
And I think they're going to make great use of that timing now. That is just not an army that can beat with your current military force.
No. And if only one of you shows up, it's even worse, right? It's just death in a Congo line. Looks like the Knights are posturing on the backside of this, looking for a stab in, but Mahodo has got plenty of Limitane to match them here. Lancers reaching onto the tree line. BLB losing villages he can't afford to be at this stage. The Camel Lancers front lining to make sure the archers just do no damage here.
Raiders, I mean, in mass, able to take good trades even against the archers. And now once again, another Sultan's Tower coming up.
As it began, it must end. Tower of the Sultans returning, this time likely to go even deeper into these bases. Gorgowski still without a leg to stand on to fight up against this many spearmen. 41 waiting to fight with him. And that high trade house is not going to last long here.
Arms need to be evacuated now as well.
It's like, do I go to his base or his? Which one do you want to kill first, Mahoda? It's like, you know, one to one, guys, 1-to-1. I mean, they can win 1v1s here easily. Lancers in again. It's this A-clicks from BLB to try and kite instead of just targeting Desert Raiders, where at least he'd be getting rid of some of the targets. Instead, he's just taking a much quicker way to die here. We're on the verge of the GG, and we are on the verge of a 5-game series.
Yeah, Mahodo now coming in as well with his military force.
They're trying to force Gorgowski to commit, right? Because like the archers can't kite, but the knights can. So they go off the infantry mass to force a fight sooner. It's really smart, actually. Primary TC getting rushed down. BLB, of course, does have 2 behind that, but I mean, I just don't see the way out anymore, Krakeny. This looks cooked.
What looked like a potentially quick series here between the two teams, now going all the way to game number 5. That's crazy. Landmarks just being burned down here now. Golden Age getting denied. No military production at the moment at all from BLB. Here's got no military, and GG gets called.
5 games, a miraculous comeback now on the horizon for Volda. DEBILS need to get it together fast, or they will be out of Winter Team Championship 2.
Yeah, the villager count there, BLB, I feel like he just needed to surrender that TC, go somewhere else. Wait for your timing to come in, get some military mass out, but in the end, they took the fight.
Kind of felt a bit scramble-brained, right? Like, who expects to get Tower the Sultan rushed? I mean, in hindsight, you kind of
happen every day.
No, you kind of facepalm and go, of course, it's Dragavan, but at the same time, hard to remember these series. I mean, you have to remember we've had multiple games where it just hasn't really come up, this idea of Abbasis or Ibids. I think there was even a map where it got banned, but now it has to be something in the back of their mind, especially considering that this will all be decided on Himeyama, a map where you are quite divided from your teammate, a map where Abbasis has actually been quite popular, and Ibids isn't out of the range of possibilities here. We'll have to see what they got in mind as we get ready for the 5th game, but yeah, Tower of the Sultan, just so pivotal in this game. A Scourge in 1v1s for the person who makes it, but in team games, a Scourge for those who are against it.
Good pick off here, finally, on the Tower of the Sultan. I feel like if they just bided their time, you mentioned it earlier, if a Tower of the Sultan hits you and you don't have the military force to fight it, just go away. Don't try to force a takedown on it.
Yeah, it's like, you know when you were a kid and you sneak in the garden, the old guy, and he'd be angry at you, and we wave his stick and say, "Come over here." It's like, you weren't that kid that came over there, were you? No, you run away. That old guy's never going to catch you. I mean, kick his cane out from under him if you need to. It's too slow. And that really is the nature of the Tower Sultan, especially with such a big map, right? 1v1's a little bit more suffocating, but 2v2s just feels like you should have so many options here.
Hardly. There we had a good pick off there on the military from Gutkowski and BLB. I feel like if after this pick-off, they just started to scale up their military a little bit more.
Yeah, because then you had this weird play, right, where Gutkowski had stopped trying to raid and BLB tries to run in. And I think that discombobulation is a very bad sign for DEBILS. These guys should know better. They've been playing team games together for a very long time, but that type of play, the unraveled nature of it, right? 1v1 is something we'd expect out of, like, more your 1v1 pros that have been coming to team game tournaments here. Instead, the guys who should have probably the most team experience just didn't seem to be in sync with this idea at all.
A little bit of an unfortunate way this unfolded as well. BLB using his archers and diving a little bit too deep. They definitely needed this military here to survive and be back there in the base of them once that big military mass hit them. But in the end, that's not how it played out. But now we're going to have a game number 5, a grand decider here in our first set in the decider set, in the decider weekend.
And hold on a second. We've got to get into this one fast because I'm seeing camels, and we all know how this goes. It is the year of Outpost rushes. Now, he doesn't have access to a Tower of the Sultan, but he does have access to his other camel Civ. He is a Scourge on the ladder with them. Dragavan is going to be on those Abbasis. Let's hop in for game number 5 of the first series of the day. It's Himeyama time.
All right, jumping right into it. We got Delhi and Ibid for Team DEBILS and Abbasid and the Mongols for Volda Esports. We see Dragavan already moving out here onto water.
Yeah, this is slightly dangerous though, right? I mean, if the Delhi wanted to do this as well, they'd just destroy you with the boats that can shoot. So, it is a little bit of a coin flip.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
and I think Mahodo scouted that base first. I think he even threw his Falcon over the front. So they did have the info on it. So good read there. But also at the same time, Dragavan would have already had to have started pulling the villager because of how far away that little lake is. So we'll be able to get the fishing. But kind of an interesting matchup, right? Ibid's Delhi versus Abbasis Mongols. I mean, you've got Mongols which tend to be unrelenting aggression. You've got Abbasis that tend to be unrelenting greed. On the other side, Ibid's Delhi makes for a very healthy, dynamic comp. You have a lot of cavalry potential between those two.
Yeah. Looking at the spawn here, Gutkowski, he's got a very fast spawning forward gold, like 2 gold mines going forward. you shut those down with an outpost from the Mongols, and Gurkowski is going to have trouble producing his scholars. At the same time, he's got 4 villagers already on gold, so maybe he's anticipating this and just wants to pre-gather up as much gold as possible.
Yeah, I feel like you got to be sensing it's coming with this type of spawn, right? I mean, we already saw the Rax has been committed to. The timing is going to be a little bit slow based on the positioning. So Voda had to spend a long time walking out over there. And the awkward part now is like, because this is a Spearman opening, the nice thing about this from Hodo is all of a sudden that idea of you just getting like double cavalry doesn't feel as good for Devils, right? Because you'd be going into the Ghazi plus the Desert Raiders. And although Desert Raiders do have a ranged attack, it's pretty underwhelming when you've got a small quantity. I wonder, actually, could we be seeing a logistics wing here?
We're getting economic wing, and it is going to be economic wing growth, so just the default play there. One of the berry bushes, unfortunately, has been depleted.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of this over going for the Dervish. Just because your allies kind of want to build Ghazi, right? So you can play with him. The alternative is whenever his Ghazi get injured, he has to run them all the way back home to heal with Scholars.
Spearman not going over to the Delhi player. Instead, we're seeing Spearman going over to BLB as the IBIT. I mean,
okay, so you
BLB's base is really good for this, though. He's got gold on like 4 different sides of his base. Like, he can just go somewhere else.
And my brain's like, so what's the idea here? Are you really that worried about fast castle? Because, like I said, I think this is a comp that can play along feudal. I mean, you know, the growth wing as well, it kind of leans into that idea. But meanwhile, you're probably not going to get any backup from this, because typically from this position, an Abbasid player is expected to just be going for his own greed with Eco Wing.
Yeah, looking at the economy here, Dragovan, he does have a nice villager lead now with those fishing ships.
Playing
Now
the
the military wing coming in.
Okay. This isn't the worst of ideas, right? Like, I was a little bit worried he was going to go just for the second TC. At which point, Delhi and IBIDs break out. So he's going to look to align the pressure. Feels like what we're getting from Voda here is very similar, actually, to the opening game of the series, which they lost. The idea of just all-in aggression to shutter the greedier opponent. Different civs, different situation, though, right? Like, you know, in that game, Byzantines had one idea and one idea only. But in this game, IBIDs can flex between playing the Age and Go Castle.
That definitely could be coming in. No move out yet from BLB onto the back goal. That's definitely something that he could think about. Drop an outpost there and you should be fine on the back gold. You pretty much get into a position where your opponent, other than getting the bounty on your mining camp, hasn't really achieved a lot. And Mahodo still isn't clicking for the age up. He's very far behind when it comes to that.
Yeah, and what worries me is the choice of target gets even weirder, not just because of BLB spawn, but because of what you just saw him do. At an archery range, congrats. You've just tried to tower rush one of the Middle Eastern civs, the ones that get access to rams without needing a blacksmith.
Something else to also just keep in mind here is that now with the economic wing growth, this ship play here, dock play in the middle, it's pretty much been neutralized, or equalized rather.
Yeah, I mean, Dragoman still has the upside on the Golden Ages, right? Because he has a better gathering rate on those. But the trade-off is that BLB on a big map now has access to Desert Raiders. Desert Raiders kind of cripples your ability to do Keshiks or Horsemen as the Vest Boys. I never discredit the value of Desert Raiders. I mean, it's a unit that just seems to, every 2 or 3 months, find another versatile use in the meta.
Certainly not a bad unit at all here currently.
He's certainly the right choice. I'm glad he done that. Like, Silver Tree is just a poor choice.
Yeah, you don't need it. Granted, on this map, there are actually 4 neutral markets, but I think Silver Tree, you can just make a normal market, right?
Agreed. Like, it's something
that gives you so much.
It's something I've believed in for a long time. It's like this Silver Tree build meta lasted way too long. Deerstone gives you flexibility, gives you options on a civ that really needs it in the early game. Whereas when you go for Silver Tree, like, your opponent just rushes you, right? So Deerstone just actually gives you the opportunity to be aggressive and also forces your opponent to be paranoid about it. You can still greed, but you justify that greed first.
Archers here being able to completely pick apart those 3 military wing units and the couple of spearmen that were still remaining. We're now seeing 4 camel archers. No, that's 2 camel archers. The bow actually made it look like 4 there for a second. Two camel archers in queue.
I'm like, hey, those shoreline fish are pretty good. That would have been pretty wild.
Wait, what's happening with the shoreline fishes? There's some green dots right next to them.
There is. The Ghazi have arrived.
And they're taking some shots at the
Dragon's not paying attention.
Down. Yeah, he's losing some of these fishing ships.
Might lose more. He's looking elsewhere. Finally starts to pull back there, but loses a second one. So expensive.
It is. Now a single spearman. It's not going to be enough against 5 Ghazi raiders.
No, you're going to have to build a boat here. If you really want to hold this area, you need to build an archer ship now.
Not in queue yet, though.
Oh, look. Another thing that we get bonus damage against. Yum, yum, yum.
Movement speed arrow comes out, though. Khan is going to try to hightail it out of that one. And now with the Keshiks, you need a couple more units in order to deal with the Keshiks. Granted, you can always heal up the Ghazi raiders again. So if you got good micro, you should be in a good spot there. And Khan isn't going to get taken down.
Greedy from Gurkowski to actually not commit at that stage or just back away earlier, right? Just getting nothing out of in the end. But yeah, a little bit of a savior hero syndrome from the side of Volda over that TC, over that dock rather, treating it like it was a TC, right? The amount of troops funneling in one by one, even with the Khan afterwards, just unnecessary. So gave a little bit more momentum than really ever should have been there. So we have got a bit of a clown car going on. Obviously, that did get nerfed now, so you have to wait for the wind up, but we'll be able to get through the tower. Camel archers arriving. 3 camel archers versus 6 archers is not a fight the camels are going to lose. So BOB has to shake his fist and run away.
Yeah, it needs like 2.5 times the amount of archers to camel archers in order to take halfway decent trades against them. Hex speed is just so much better on them. They scale really well at the beginning.
Yeah, it's also even more awkward when you're playing around tree lines like that, where you can begin to lose vision. It means you don't even necessarily get your 5 tower range advantage over them, especially when they have the mobility to choose where they're kind of sitting on that. Raid coming in 2 locations here. I like this though. The Uvu looking like it's going to go down. Remember, that's very far away from the town center, so couldn't intercept and repair like most Mongol players would with the close by TC.
Is the Raider running back? Oh, nope, standing still. Loses life.
A little bit of a slip up there from Gurkowski. Didn't get anything in return on the other side, right?
Oh, good damage potentially.
Should be, what, 2 villagers going now? Possibly 3 if he rushes past this. Flubs him well. But the split, not desirable there. Too many aggro to the west side one, so just 2 villies. Now, Outpost will be coming up on a delay. I don't like this time from Voda, though. He needs to wait for the second line of Keshik.
Gets another villager.
Almost another 2. All of a sudden, they just
now gonna have to run away.
Yamara, though, such a fun unit.
Yeah, Yamara is gonna be tough to run away from, but now outside the range, he should be able to escape.
Isn't this got the charge in, so he'll be able to poke down properly injured Ghazi here, you'd think? Or we could hit the...
a little bit of a hurdle.
Half HP Ghazi instead.
A movement speed arrow.
Does get the kill. Elsewhere, we have got a little bit of poke rate coming in, but nothing major. And the Ghazi group are now arriving in Dragonman's base. So everywhere, anywhere, all at once. But same for the camels. We're now up to 10 camel archers. It's getting a little bit wild. 11 camel archers compared to 13 Ghazi.
And 12 archers on the side of BLB. Do we have another age up coming in from BLB? Yeah, he's aging up to castle age right now.
Has to be, right? Like, he's just not contributing anything. So yeah, advanced wings coming in. I mean, camel archers can be decent, but against mass camel archers, you just die so fast.
Definitely doesn't feel that great. And we've seen a spearman from Gurkowski. That's not the right call against somebody that has camel archer as well. They just die so quickly, and look at them. They're sitting here in between the 2 players in the mid-map, making sure that like unit trade-offs from one side to another aren't really possible. Double outpost coming up here. Lots of villagers trying to rush that out, but the camel archers are approaching quickly. Oh, this could be dangerous. Could be very, very dangerous.
Quick enough. He has to bail on it. And this many camel archers can even contest the Ghazi now. So yeah, all of a sudden Gurkowski blocked off of his food. Also a pressure point coming from the east side. Mahodo Mel moving in. So while BLB is teching up, Gurkowski is now being thrown to the wolves.
He's going to have to be really, really careful here. They're going for it. They're going for the dive. Gurkowski's going to have to evacuate villagers.
He shuffles them out the north side. Doesn't work well here, though. Just going to make a run for a breakthrough. Scholars get sacrificed. And Ghazi count not looking good. I said thrown to the wolves. Actually, instead, he's being thrown to the frogs here.
Oh, archers coming in, trying to get some picks on the camel archers.
And the Keshik's already on it. Yeah, I mean, tech up complete for BRB, but at what cost, right? Gokowski is going to be a non-starting factor, and you only got advancement wing. It's not a really big upside here.
First couple of Camel Lancers are in queue, but we got so many Camel Archers at this point in time. They can almost one-shot them. Highest base damage in Feudal Age for a ranged unit.
Yep. And it got nerfed, remember?
It got nerfed, yeah. It was a slight tickle. They still penetrate armored units like it's nothing. Exactly.
I mean, once you scale them like this, they're just uncontrollable. It really is the Abbasids' counter to fast castle plays, if you can slow them down a little bit. That means the Volda finds themselves in a very good position to make a miraculous recovery from a 2-0 down earlier on this series. Just need to keep that pressure up. Camel Archers now moving in to do so. First Camel Archers have arrived, but against this many Keshiks and Camel Archers, they're not going to last very long.
Not very long at all. Look at the damage that the Camel Archers are doing. Absolutely vile.
I mean, it's a 2-for-2 exchange, right? Which is great considering your units are an age behind. Now the aftermath leads to kills.
Oh no, the food.
Wait, POB? Slow reactions here. More villagers lost. And on top of that, the Keshiks will be able to break through this. If this was just the Abbasids, the Outpost defense is smart. But Keshiks, it's a no bueno.
Camel Lancer coming in. BLB, he's lost a lot of villagers here. Both BLB and Gokowski did. Having to run all the way back to the TC, but the Keshiks just following up here.
So much damage being done. We'll at least make it to the TC with a few here, but now the Keshiks go, wait a second. I haven't checked your wood. Lancer.
Oh no.
It's gonna get in the way.
Look at the Camel Lancer. Just, oh my god.
Excuse me, coming through. Excuse me. Just after the villagers over here. Oh, a Lancer? Get him, boys. Oh god, this is brutal. I mean, they're fighting one or two villager picks on the other side elsewhere. I did notice one or two eco units dying, but it's a tickle of damage compared to what's happening here. We ring a Rosie. The Ghazi are the ones getting those kills I mentioned, but this is going to be bigger. Another outpost going down. And remember, this is even easy to do now because you've got 5 less arrows coming in at you. And all of a sudden, BLB is down to a pathetic 22. Wait, that 21 villagers in this game.
Yeah, this feels over now. This feels over after a 2-0 start for the Devils team. Volda Esports, they're... Oh, God. Camera.
The vulgar esports. Like, how do you do this to them? Unbelievable. It looked like it was going to be a 3-0. Even in that game 3, right? It looked so good. The fact that Dragovan and Mahodo, and of course, Ramen were able to claw their way back into this series, a miracle in its own right. But now the writing on the wall here. It's a ridiculous economy lead. One that's comparable to that game 3 lead that they were building at one stage, right? It's 59-90.
Oh, man. The archers, I mean, they are vetted up, but are there blacksmith upgrades in for them? They're doing a decent amount of damage to the Keshiks. Only +1 damage has come in. Still no age up yet from Dragovan or Mahodo, but economically, they're so far ahead now.
Again.
From Gokowski going down.
These berries, he got caught earlier on him, he gets catched on them again. There's a few villagers and it will be just shuffle away here. I mean, from here, I think the only thing really left for Volda is to maybe just get one of them up into the castle later. Most likely Mahodo, right? The Camel Archers are still doing fine. The Keshiks would be benefiting a lot more from their castle upgrades.
Gokowski just went to Spearman. Guess what counters Spearman? Camel Archers. They, for some reason, I don't know why. I don't know why. I cannot tell you why, but for some reason, Camel Archers do double damage.
But it's fine, right? Because like they got their base damage nerf crackety. So
yeah, about that.
I don't think it actually changed the amount.
How fine it is. Look at how fine this is.
Yeah, look, it's fine. See, look, he almost killed one.
A little bit of animation cabinet.
I don't think that's animation cats. Let me just start.
Okay. We're just
call the council crackety. We're gonna have to. Is this how it's gonna work? Devils get the win. That was a slight start there from Dragovan.
This game's been over for a while, but yes. I don't think like when you're already ahead at this point in time, it's a questionable thing to have happen.
Well, Keshi's going to move in for another 6 villager kills. It is about to be a double up on economy. And behind this, Mahodo is getting ready for that 3rd age.
Yeah. I mean, once that age up comes in as well, like so many Keshiks still in the field, 22 vetted up, and double the villager count now at this point in time as well.
There it is. They call it. GG comes out. It is going to be a full reverse sweep. Devils are out, and Volda Esports, by some miracle, come back from the verge of defeat to win 3-2.
Man, that was kind of insane.
I don't think kind of does enough justice.
Look at that military count. Yeah, that kind of tells the story there, doesn't it?
Especially the way they've done it, right? Like, when you consider the state of game 3, for most of that game, like, that was over, right? You're like, oh, okay, 3-0, quick day, here we go. All of a sudden, like, nah, boys, buckle yourself in. The broadcast is going to chugga-chugga-choo-choo for quite a while yet. Only the first series of the day, and already delivering, like, to the extreme of what a reverse sweep can really be.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely a complete reverse sweep. Jigglypuff going out after 2 games won in a row, only to come back to find his team suffer a 3-2 defeat there at the end. Definitely not a feels good moment.
Now, careful.
For them, but Volda Esports are able to push through after like 2 games behind. Mahodo comes in, saves the day to go with Dragavan.
So, not Jiggly Turd then, after all. We need something valuable that maybe looks like a... Jiggly Truffle should be his name from now on. Oh, the lab wasn't there. So commiserations to Team Devils. They are done. A pretty clean execution in game number 3 out of Volda Esports here. You know, it looked bad at first. This opening part in particular, Krakeny, when they tried to defend this dog, I thought that was it. I thought Gokowski and BOB were going to take control from there.
I think in the end, the age up from BLB against just this many Camel Archers, you can kind of tell when you go this many Camel Archers without a second TC, you're thoroughly locked into Feudal Age. And in that situation, you just need to spam long like archers like there's no tomorrow. If you get to like 50, 60 archers, you're able to also do great damage against the Keshiks. Keshiks don't have that much HP compared to like a normal knight. So having 50 less health, 50-ish less health than a normal knight, it takes significantly less hits in order to one-shot one of these Keshiks.
Yep. I mean, you know, as a result of that, it just became a bit of a ripple effect from that point on. I mean, credit to Gokowski for trying to find this little bit of chip raid wherever he could, but good reactions overall out of Mahodo and Dragavan. And once they started to get that Camel Archer count up, I think that was the most key detail, right? So much focus was on Mahodo. I don't think enough was on Dragavan, right? He had that fishing. He had the safe food at home. It's what allowed him to bloat this Camel count so aggressively on a 1 TC build to the point that not even Ghazi felt like they had any right contesting anymore.
And the Camel Archers just also doing relatively well against the Archers. At this point in time, Archers being sent across, but the Ghazi Raiders already dead at this point in time. If only those 2 outposts got up there for Gokowski, it would have been in a great, well, not in a great, but in a much better position, instead of losing most of his villagers there. Yeah, it's just a rough one in the end. You had the outposts up, but it's just so many Camel Archers with the Keshiks combined, and then you just can't protect it.
From there on out, it was just all too easy for Volda to close it out with a win. It means that they will be proceeding through from their Group B. But keep in mind, folks, we don't know exactly who they're going to be up against. We can only guarantee it will not be a rematch of their group. So they won't have to go up against Team Canada. It'll be either Elephant, Free Deader, or Chimps they face in the playoffs.